Hello, everybody. How is everybody doing? Can I be heard? I gotta go put this over here where it's not gonna be in my way. Give me 1 second. Why is this all messy? Hang on. How? What? Why is that? That's such a strange way for it to cut off like that. Why is there a black bar at the bottom? I'm trying to be professional over here. Hey guys, yes, so good news in the strike situation. The writer's strike is over. Here's the bad news. The SAG strike is not over. So SAG, and by extension us here on this channel, we're still on strike. But the writers are off strike, so thank God after 150 days, they are not, they are back to work. And with them back to work, why is that happening? That's not only obviously really great for them, but it is a really, really good sign for everything overall. It means that everything is coming to a close, you know? So yes, very, very good news today. Was very, very happy to wake up to that news today. My nose is running. I'm so sorry. My allergies act up every single time I have to be. You don't see the black bar on stream. Maybe it's just me? Is that just something showing up on my end? I hope so. I can live with it. I just have to maintain the veneer. The veneer that I'm good at my job. Everybody's like, what veneer? Just you're good. Okay, cool. Okay. Sorry, I was seeing it on my end, so I was trying to fix it, and then I guess that makes sense why I couldn't fix it. There was no problem to be found. Let's see. Just me. Okay, cool. If it's just me, then that's fine. If it's just what YouTube is choosing to show me, then we'll live. So yeah, we are still continuing on our trip around the world. Since SAG is the union asking for us to not speak on struck media. So we're going to continue doing what we're doing, but very, very good news today out of Hollywood. Really, really good news. Unbelievably good news. I'm so happy. Okay. So, hello guys. Good to see you all. Glad that there's no, weird bottom cutoff bar thing going on. Hi, Austin. Oh, thank you. I love this sweatshirt. No, you hang up first. I found it on... It was an Etsy seller that was selling them. And I've been obsessed with it ever since. I found it on like a, I think I got it after Thanksgiving, like an after Thanksgiving Black Friday day sale, and I got it cheap, and so I was just like, woo, I love this. Today, I'm trying to get my book off the shelf. Give me a second. Today, we've got the top-down camera working again, thank God. And we are reading Goosebumps One Day at Horrorland. Horrorland has gone on to become a big thing for Goosebumps as a whole. This is, I believe my print, this is one of the older prints. I know because it has this like bubbly Goosebumps thing that they stopped printing after 2002, I think is when they stopped putting these out. I could be wrong, but it's one of these editions. Not that I'm a book collector that cares too much about what edition I have, but just thought it was kind of fun. I always liked this pink cover. And this is the first mention of Horrorland for Goosebumps. This is the first time R.L. Stine wrote about it. Horrorland went on to have its own side series, which we've read one book from, and I'll have to read some more from later in the future. This is the 16th book in the original series, so A lot of you guys grew up with this one. This one's a big one. We covered the episode, God, that was like last year now, wasn't it? We covered the episode here on the channel. So this is the book version. There's a Horrorland video game. I've heard about this. I want to find a copy of it to download somewhere at some point to play. Carnival game where you can explore the park. Great top. It makes me want to scream TM. Thank you. I've only known about the episode. Yep, all the episodes obviously were based off of the books in the series. I liked the adaptation was pretty good for this one, I think. Yeah, I miss covering the show. I'll get to again once we get through all the SAG stuff, but this is the book version. And we've gotten to read some book versions of a couple. We read The Werewolf of Fever Swamp. We read what else? Haunted Mask. So we have read some of the book versions of episodes that I've made videos about, that we've talked about here before. I'm excited for this one though. Old and new Goosebumps show side by side. When I'm able to, I would love to cover the new Goosebumps show as well as original Goosebumps. I should probably see the movies at some point. I did work on one of them. Haven't seen them though. Apologies, fall allergies are a thing here. It's the one thing I don't like about spooky season. My Discord server. Oh, thank you. I'm gonna be real. I don't know how boosting servers works. I assume it's a good thing. So thank you. I'm not the most Discord savvy. And yeah, let's get into it. 80s and 90s heavy metal. Oh, that's funny. Sinuses suck. Thursday through Saturday I was sick. I gave it Ellen. Oh, I'm sorry. That sucks. I know I'm like drinking all the electrolytes, taking all the vitamins. I'm just like, please. I got RSV really bad last year and then gave it to Spencer, and it was not fun. Unfun. Opposite of fun. But anyway, let's read the back of the book. The next ride might be their last. Lizzie's family got lost trying to find Zoo Gardens. Zoo Gardens theme park. Sorry, the sticker is over the word park. But that's okay. They found another amusement park instead. In Horrorland, there are no crowds, no lines, and the admission is free. It seems like a pretty cool place. But that was before Lizzie's heart-stopping ride on the Deadly Doom slide and that terrifying experience in the House of Mirrors. Because there's something weird about the ride in Horrorland. Something's a little too creepy, a little too real. Reader beware, you're in for a scare. Look for these other Goosebumps titles. And then they list a whole bunch of other Goosebumps titles, which God knows they can't list all of them, but yeah, so that's... Let's see. Look for other books. Very interesting. Ooh. What in the world? Okay. Excuse me. Goodness. God. All right. Zoo Gardens. Yep. Yes, a knockoff Busch Gardens. Yes. They couldn't say Busch Gardens because of copyright, so they were like, what sounds like that? Zoo Gardens, sure. Is it a zoo? Is it a garden? Who's to say? What's been my favorite book in the series so far? So far, just out of the ones that we've read here on the channel, honestly, aside from all the memes and stuff that came out of things like Stay Out of the Basement, if you're asking, like, genuinely, like, my favorite, I really liked, I think The Haunted Mask still holds up. I think The Ghost Next Door holds up. I think a lot of them are actually stronger than I remember, than I thought they would be reading the back. Piano Lessons Can Be Murder was so weird, but I enjoyed it so much, and it sticks with me. And it always did stick with me, like, you know. Yeah. I would say Haunted Mask and Ghost Next Door stand out to me as two of the strongest ones we've read so far. And then least strong, obviously. Weakest is Monster Blood. And Be Careful What You Wish For, it was just kind of there. Like, I was just thinking about them all the other day, and I think that's the one that I, like, remember the least details about, even though we just read it, like, I mean, it was a few months ago now, but, like, the other ones, like, there seem to be more, like, show-stopping moments that I remember from the book, and with Be Careful What You Wish For, I only ever remember the very end. Beautiful hands. It was so weird. Monster Blood would probably have to get a little better to be mid in my opinion. I think it was so boring. Then they keep writing them, like they're clearly selling because they keep writing them. We're like up to like what 6 Monster Blood books, and it's too much Monster Blood. We didn't need to revisit that one. Movies, Halloween episodes. Ooh, that's gonna be so fun. Did I tell you guys that I found on eBay a VHS copy of Stay Out of the Basement for like $1, and so I have that now. Shocker on Shock Street is the bomb. I don't know if I ever read that one as a kid, and we haven't gotten to it reading it here, so I'm excited for it. I'm excited for it. I know it's a fan favorite. The Blob That Ate Everything and Monster Blood are literally just the poor man's The Blob, if you think about it. Not the 80s one with the cool gore. The 50s one with Steve McQueen. Yeah. Hi, Heck. Yeah, let's just get into it. Alright. Chapter 1. Yeah, you guys can see the pages now. As we entered the gates to Horrorland, we had no idea that in less than an hour we would all be lying in our coffins. I'm the calm one in the Morris family. Everyone says, Lizzie, you're the calm one. And I'm trying to tell this story calmly. But believe, that's why you know you're putting too much pressure on your kid. When the kid's like, but I'm the calm one. Not my parents. Not my parents having to be the calm ones. But believe me, there's no way. We had never planned to go to Horrorland. In fact, we never heard of it. The 5 of us were squeezed into Dad's little Toyota on our way to spend the day at Zoo Gardens theme park. Dad had messed up and left the map at home, but Mom said the park would be real easy to find. When we got close to the park, Mom said there would be lots of signs to direct us, but so far we hadn't seen a single sign. Dad was driving, and Mom was beside him in the front. I was squeezed in back with my little brother, Luke, who was 10. And Luke's friend, Clay. Clay, I was not in the show. They were like, we don't need Clay. It wasn't the best place to be. My brother cannot sit still for a second, especially in the car. He just has too much energy and he's totally goofy. The longer we drove, the more restless Luke became. He tried wrestling with Clay, but there really wasn't room. He then tried arm wrestling with him, and the two of them kept bumping me until I lost my temper and started shouting at them to stop. Why don't you three play alphabets? Mom suggested from the front. Look out the window for letters. There aren't any, Luke replied. There aren't any signs. There isn't anything to look at, Clay grumbled. He was right. We were driving past flat, sandy fields. There were a few scraggly trees here and there. The rest was all desert. I'm going to take this turn off, Dad announced. He took off his Chicago Cubs cap and scratched his thinning blonde hair. Haven't I already taken this turn off? Dad is the only blonde in the family. Mom, Luke, and I all have straight black hair and blue eyes. In fact, Dad doesn't look as if he belongs in the same family. Okay. There might be That sounds like there's an unfortunate DNA test in that family's future, but just moving on. It's weird, Dad. None of us look like Dad at all. The three of us are tall, thin, with very fair skin, and Dad is short and kind of chubby, with a round face that's almost always pink. I tease him all the time because I think he looks a lot more like a wrestler than a bank manager, which he is. I'm pretty sure we've already been here, Dad said unhappily. It's hard to tell. It's all desert, Mom replied, gazing out her window. Very helpful, Dad muttered. How can I be helpful? Mom shot back. You're the one who left the map on the kitchen table. I thought you packed it, Dad grumbled. Why should it be my job to pack the map? Mom cried. Break it up, you two, I interrupted. Once they start fighting, they never stop. It's always best to interrupt them quickly before they really get into it. Oof. I'm the mad pincher, Luke cried. He let out a gruesome horror movie laugh and started pinching Clay's ribs and arms. I hate Luke's mad pincher routine more than anything. I was so glad that Clay was sitting in the middle next to Luke and not me. Usually, the only way to stop Luke's pinching is to slug him. Don't hit. Clay started squirming and laughing. He thinks everything Luke does is a riot. He laughs at all of my brother's stupid jokes and stunts. I think that's why Luke likes Clay so much. The two of them began pinching each other. Then Luke shoved Clay onto me. Give me a break, I cried. I shoved Clay back. I know I shouldn't have, but it was getting hot in the car, and we'd been driving for hours, and what was I supposed to do? Lizzie! Boys, chill out back there, Dad cried. Dad, nobody says chill out anymore, I told him calmly and quietly. For some reason, that made him go berserk. He started yelling. His face got bright red. Did chill out go out of fashion and then come back in? Let's see. You guys can still see me, right? Sounds like it. I just got a pop-up that we were... Okay. I just got a pop-up that the stream might be shaky, so just wanted to make sure. I've done that before where I've read, multiple pages and then looked up and been like, what do you guys think, chat? Chat's just gone. I knew he wasn't mad at me. He was mad because he couldn't find Zoo Gardens theme park. Everybody just take a deep breath and be silent, Mom suggested. Ow, stop pinching me, Clay screamed. He gave Luke a hard shove. You stop pinching me, my brother shrieked, shoving him back. I feel like this is going to give a lot of us flashbacks to family road trips. Boys can really be animals. Hey, look, a sign up ahead, Mom pointed as a large green sign came into view. Luke and Clay stopped fighting. Dad leaned forward over the steering wheel, squinting through the windshield. Does it say where the park is? Luke demanded. Does it say where we are? Clay asked. The words on the sign came into view as we drove past it. It said, sign for rent. We all let out a disappointed groan. The mad pincher returns, Luke cried. He gave Clay a hard pinch on the arm. Luke never knows when to quit. This road isn't going anywhere, Dad said, scowling. I'll have to turn around and get back on the highway if I can find it. I think you should ask someone for directions, Mom suggested. Ask someone? Ask someone, Dad exploded. Do you see anyone I can ask? His face was bright red again. He drove with one hand so he could use the other to shake a fist. I thought it was going to say flip him off, but this is a kid's book. I meant if you see a gas station, Mom murmured. A gas station, Dad screamed. I don't even see a tree. Dad was right. I stared out the window and saw nothing but white sand on both sides of the road. The sun beamed down on it, making it gleam. The sand was so bright it nearly looked like snow. I meant to go north, Dad muttered. The desert is south. We must have gone south. You'd better turn around, Mom urged. Are we lost? Clay asked. I could hear some fear in his voice. Clay isn't the bravest kid in the world. In fact, he's pretty easy to scare. Once I crept up behind him in our backyard at night and whispered his name, and he almost jumped right out of his shoes. Dad, are we lost? Luke repeated the question. Yeah, we're lost, Dad replied quietly. Hopelessly lost. Clay let out a soft cry and slumped into the seat. He looked a little like a balloon deflating. Don't tell him that, Mom cried sharply. What should I tell him? Dad snapped back. We're nowhere near zoo gardens. We're nowhere near civilization. We're in the desert going nowhere. Just turn around. I'm sure we'll find someone we can ask, Mom said softly, and stop being so dramatic. We're all going to die in the desert, Luke said with a gruesome grin on his face, and buzzards will peck at our eyeballs and eat our flesh. My brother has a great sense of humor, doesn't he? You can't imagine what it's like having to live with a total ghoul. Luke, stop scaring Clay, Mom said, turning in her seat to glare at Luke. I'm not scared, Clay insisted, but he looked scared. His round face was kind of pale, and his eyes were blinking a lot behind his glasses with his short, feathery blonde hair and round eyeglasses. Clay looked a lot like a frightened owl. Muttering to himself, Dad slowed the car to a stop. Then he turned it around, and we headed back into the direction we had come. Great vacation, he said through clenched teeth. Hang on, I need a tissue. Hello, 23 concurrents. I always forget how much we all love reading Goosebumps until we read them again, and I'm like, I do love Goosebumps. It's still early, Mom told him, checking her watch. The late morning sun was nearly straight overhead. I could feel its warmth on my face through the open sunroof. We drove for nearly half an hour. Luke wanted to play 20 questions, or geography with Clay, but Clay moodily said no. He just stared out the window, watching the desert roll by. Every few minutes he'd ask, are we still lost? Pretty lost, my dad would repeat unhappily. We're okay, Mom kept reassuring us. As we drove, the scraggly trees reappeared, then after a while, the sand gave way to darker fields dotted with trees and low shrubs. I sat silently, my hands clasped in my lap, staring out the window. I wasn't really scared or worried, but I wished we would at least see a gas station or a store or one other human being. I'm getting hungry, Luke griped. Is it lunchtime? With a long sigh that sounded like air escaping from a tire, Dad pulled the car to the side of the road. He reached across Mom to the glove compartment. There's gotta be some kind of map in there, he said. No, I already looked, Mom told him. As they started to argue, I raised my eyes to the open sunroof above my head. Oh! I let out a cry as I saw a hideous monster staring down at me, lowering its enormous head, about to crush the car. Woo! All right, we're on that was chapter 1. There's a lot to unpack there. Felt like an oddly long chapter. It was 8 pages, which I guess is, yeah, kind of long for these books. Okay, I missed a lot in chat. Let me go back. Being the lightning rod for family stress is the worst. I know, right? She's the oldest daughter, too. So shout out to all the oldest daughters out there from one to another. Well, hang on. One of my lights is turned. It's weirdly dark here. That's a little better. Also, real talk, one of my picture frames, you guys can't see it the way that the cameras are, but over here there was a picture frame that fell off the wall last night while I was in here, and shattered, so hopefully I got all the glass out of here. I guess we will find out one way or another. In a reboot episode. Monster Blood, I feel like, I guess could be interesting. But it just never was. Let's see. Shocker on Shock Street graphic novel. I think I've taken that out of my library before. Haunted Mask is good. Oh, hey, Noah. Oh, but if someone did a legit horror film, right? It's just so good. Not everyone in my family telling me I'm their rock. Oh, oof. Yep. This one is so awesome. This one I know we've all been waiting for. This is a good one. I really had fun when we did the video on the episode. I still remember this episode must have had like a $50 budget. The best ride was the Coffin Satter River. Yeah. ADHD. Oh, yeah, for sure. I thought the same thing. The little bro and the ADHD. Chicago Cubs. I'm pretty sure. I want to say R.L. Stine is like actually a Cubs fan in real life, and that was I know he's a baseball fan. I feel like it might be a situation where that's his team in real life, and so he put that in there. Postman, LOL. Oof, who's gonna tell her? The girl is like, it's weird. None of us look like our dad at all, and it's like, R.L. Stine. Reading a really weird Australian Goosebumps ripoff when I was in primary school. Bag of gummy worms. I think I know which one. What was it called? Wait, it wasn't Ghostwriter, was it? Was that Australian? Might have been. Maybe there's something else. I'm the Mad Brother thrower. Yep. Hi, Akira. All good. Let's see. Yep. Writers look like they've reached a deal. Now we just need SAG to be able to get a deal, and then we can go back to talking about everything. Thought I was late. Thank God for 2x speed. Hi, Taylor. Welcome. I never experienced that. Can't wait for... Hello, Bopper. Hello, everybody. If I didn't say hi to you specifically, I still appreciate you. Let's see. If only they had GPS. Oh, this was back in the day. Yes, Clay, we're lost. We'll have to resort to cannibalism. Yeah, I remember we used to have, because there was a time in between having GPS on your phone and having no GPS at all that everybody kind of forgets, which was having the big clunky GPSs that you would buy specifically and stick on your dash. We had one of those that we used for a good couple of years before it broke. Video yesterday and it got a fair few views. Oh, congratulations, Domino. Am I excited for the new Goosebumps show? Yes. Although I can't talk about it due to the SAG strike going on, but, you know, yes, very excited. Hi, almost dead. Everybody please be mindful. We have young friends in the audience. Yes, pay your workers. What's happening? YouTube is doing very strange things tonight. I have no idea what's going on. Oh, we paused the chat to catch up. Oh, God forbid we pause the chat. I also think, like, I'm seeing more than 5 active chatters, even though it's saying 5 concurrent, so I don't think that's necessarily accurate, but however long you're here, we appreciate you. Let's see. Chapter 2. Let's keep going. I opened my mouth to scream, but no sound came out. The monster glared down at me through the sunroof. It was as tall as a building. I realized its red eyes glowed with evil. Its mouth was twisted in a hungry grin. Dad? I finally managed to stammer. Dad was bent over, fumbling through the papers in the glove compartment. Wow, I heard Luke cry. I turned and saw that Luke was staring up at it too, his blue eyes wide with fright. Dad? Mom? My heart was pounding so hard I thought my chest might explode. Lizzie, what is it? Mom asked impatiently. The monster lowered its head over us, the mouth open wide, ready to swallow the whole car, and then Luke started to laugh. Wow, cool, he cried. And I realized at the same time that the monster wasn't alive. It was a mechanical figure, part of a giant billboard display. This one. That display on the cover. Ducking my head to get a better view through the side window, I saw that Dad had pulled the car up right beside the billboard. My parents were so busy arguing about maps, they hadn't even noticed it. I stared up at the red-eyed monster, lowered its head, and opened its jaws. Then the jaws snapped shut, and the enormous head slid back up. It looks so real, Clay exclaimed, staring up at it. Didn't fool me. I wasn't going to admit that I nearly leapt out through the sunroof. I'm supposed to be the calm one, after all. I rolled down the window and stuck my head out to read the billboard in front of the mechanical monster. In huge red letters, it said, "Welcome to Horrorland, where nightmares come to life." There was a dark red arrow in the upper left-hand corner with the words, 1 mile. Can we go there? Luke demanded eagerly. He leaned forward and grabbed back of Dad's seat with both hands. Can we, Dad? How about it? It looks kind of scary, Clay said softly. Dad slammed the glove compartment shut with a sigh. He was giving up on the map idea. Luke, stop pulling my seat, he snapped. Sit back. Can we go to Horrorland? Luke demanded. Horrorland? What's Horrorland? Mom demanded. Never heard of it, Dad muttered. It's only a mile from here, Luke pleaded. It looks great. The monster lowered its head over the car, staring through the sunroof. Then it raised its head again. I don't think so, Mom said, staring out at the huge billboard. Zoo Gardens is such a wonderful park. Horrorland doesn't look very nice. It looks great, Luke insisted, pulling at Dad's seat back again. It looks really excellent. The way that no kid ever talks. Luke, sit back, Dad pleaded. Let's go, I urged. We're never going to find Zoo Gardens. Mom hesitated, chewing her lower lip. I don't know, she said fretfully. Some of these places aren't safe. It'll be safe, Luke declared. It'll be very safe. Narrator's voice, it would not be safe. Luke, sit back, Dad growled. Can we go? Luke demanded, ignoring Dad's request. Can we? It could be fun, Clay said quietly. Let's give it a try, I urged them. If we hate it, we can always leave. Dad rubbed his chin. He sighed. Well, I guess it would be better than sitting here in the middle of nowhere arguing all day. Yay! Luke screamed. Luke and I reached over to Clay to slap each other a high five. Horrorland sounded like a pretty cool place to me, too. I love scary rides. If the rides are as scary as that monster, I said, pointing to the billboard, this park will be awesome. You don't think it's too scary, do you? Clay asked. I saw that he had his hands clasped tightly in his lap, and he had that frightened owl look on his face again. No, it won't be too scary, I told him. Oh, wow, was I wrong. I can't believe someone would build a big theme park out in the wilderness, Dad declared. We were driving through what seemed like an endless forest. Tall old trees leaned over the 2-lane road, nearly blocking out the late morning sun. Maybe they haven't built the park yet, Mom suggested. Maybe they're going to clear out these trees and build the park here. All three of us in the back seat were hoping Mom was wrong, and she was. The road curved sharply. As we came out of the curve, we saw the tall grass to the park the tall gates to the park straight up ahead. Behind the tall purple fence, Horrorland seemed to stretch for miles. Leaning forward in my seat, I could see the tops of rides and strange, colorful buildings. As we drove across the enormous parking lot, eerie chords of organ music invaded the car. "Yay! This looks great!" Luke exclaimed. Clay and I enthusiastically agreed. I couldn't wait to get out of the car and see everything. "The parking lot is nearly empty," Dad said, glancing uneasily at Mom. "That means we won't have to wait in long lines," I quickly exclaimed. "I think Lizzie is excited about this place," Mom commented, smiling. "Me too," Luke cried. He punched Clay enthusiastically on the shoulder. Luke always... Wait, hang on, I lost my place. Luke always has to be punching or pinching somebody. Somebody needs to tell that kid to keep his hands to himself. We crossed the wide parking lot. I saw a few cars parked near the front gate. As the far side of the lot stood a row of purple and green buses with the word Horrorland across the side. Hang on, I misread that. Let me read that again. My nose is running, I'm sorry. Alright, we crossed the wide parking lot. I saw a few cars parked near the front gate. At the far side of the lot stood a row of purple and green buses with the word Horrorland across the side. As we rode closer, I got a good look at the front gate. The same monster we had seen behind the billboard rose up behind a big purple and green sign over the gate. The sign read, "The Horrorland Horrors welcome you to Horrorland." "I don't get that sign," Mom said. "What are the Horrorland Horrors?" "We'll find out," I exclaimed happily. The solemn, eerie organ music floated heavily over the parking lot. Dad pulled into a space in the empty aisle to the right of the front gate. Luke and I pushed open the back doors before the car had even stopped. "Let's go," I cried. Luke and Clay and I started trotting towards the gate. As I ran, I stared up at the green monster over the sign. This one didn't move its head like the billboard monster, but it looked very real. I glanced back and saw that Mom and Dad were hurrying to catch up with us. "This is going to be way cool," I exclaimed. And then I gasped as a deafening explosion made the ground shake. And I stared back in horror as our car burst apart, exploding into a million pieces. Well, that sounds bad. Okay, hang on. Okay. It's a good thing they weren't still in the car, right? When she says Horrorland Horrors. No, it's not just you. It's not just you. It's me. Yes, if you can like the stream, it shows the stream to more people. That would be appreciated. Is Luke okay? Probably not. Oh, The Outsiders is such a good book. Horrorland sounds great, fucking idiots. Hey, Sammy, I'm good. How are you? Mom, can we go to Horrorland? Not until you're 18, sweetie. Mom, are we talking about the same place? probably my favorite version. Good, thanks, Avery. What's new with you? Nothing much. Just hanging out. Glad to see you guys. Attendance, so we got to eat at the local. Ooh, fun. Kit Kats with old logo. Kit Kats with old logo. These are brand new Kit Kats. Game for tomorrow's stream. Possibly, we don't know. Voting would have closed 5 p.m. On the West Coast, so just like an hour ago, voting would have closed. So far, I have heard nothing. We will keep an eye on it, and we'll figure it out. Alright. Chapter 3. It took me a long while to stop screaming. Finally, I swallowed hard, choking back my cries. We all stared in shock. Small chunks of twisted metal and a few burning cinders were all that was left of our car. How? Was all Dad managed to say. I don't believe it, I stammered. Thank goodness we were all out of the car, Mom cried. She gathered us up in a big hug. Thank goodness we're all okay. Luke and Clay still hadn't uttered a sound. They stood wide-eyed, staring at the spot where the car had stood. That didn't happen in the show. I wonder if they just didn't have the budget for the pyrotechnics. My car, Dad choked out in a horrified whisper. My car! How? How? Sorry, the dad is just such a 90s dad stereotype. We're safe, Mom murmured. We're all safe. What a terrifying explosion. I can't get the sound of it out of my ears. I've got to call the police, Dad spluttered. He began trotting to the gate, shaking his head, muttering to himself. How could the car just blow up like that, dear? Mama asked, hurrying after him. What would make it do that? How should I know? Dad snapped angrily. I don't get it. I really don't. And now what are we going to do? He sounded really panicked. I didn't blame him. The explosion was really scary. And when I realized that we could have all been inside the car when it went off, I had cold chills down my back. Maybe there's a rental car place we can call, Mom suggested. Mom is like me, calm in any emergency. We followed Dad as he was running up to the ticket booth at the entrance. A green monster stood in the booth. He had bulging yellow eyes and dark horns curled over his head. It was a really great costume. Welcome to Horrorland, he said in a gruff, low voice. A low stab of organ music rose up from the inside of the ticket booth. Da da da. I don't know what the music sounded like. I'm just picturing. I am a Horrorland horror. All of the horrors, and I hope you have a scary day. I feel like R.L. Stine did this on purpose to troll the adults reading out loud to the kids. All of the horrors, and I hope you have a scary day. My car! Dad cried frantically. There was an explosion. I need a phone. I'm sorry, sir. No phones, the guy in the monster costume replied. Huh? Dad's face was bright red again. His forehead was drenched with sweat. But I need a phone. Right away. Dad insisted, glaring angrily at the green monster. My car exploded. We're stuck here. Sorry. My car! We'll take care of you, the horror replied, lowering his gruff voice nearly to a whisper. You'll what? Dad cried. We need a car. I need to get to a phone. Don't you understand? No phones, the monster repeated. But please, sir, allow us to take care of you. I promise we will take care of everything. Don't let this spoil your visit to Horrorland. Spoil my visit, Dad shrieked, his face growing even redder. But my car! I don't know why it's so funny. Another loud stab of organ music made me jump. The creepy music made me feel as if I were actually in a horror movie. We will take care of you, I promise, the horror said. A strange smile crossed his face. His yellow eyes lit up. Please enjoy your stay, and do not worry about transportation. The other horrors and I will see that you are properly taken care of. But, Dad spluttered. The horror, gestured towards the park. Please enter as our guests. Free admission. I apologize for your car, but please do not worry. I promise you will have no need to worry about your car. Dad turned back to us, sweat dripping down his forehead. I could see that he was really upset. I can't enjoy an amusement park now, he said. I can't believe this happened. I really can't. We've got to get a car somehow, and... Oh, please, Dad, Luke cried. Please, can't we go inside? He said he'll take care of it for us, just for a little while. I joined my brother in pleading. We've had such a long drive, Mom told Dad. Let's go in for a short while. Let them blow off some steam. I need another tissue. God dang it. It's gonna be one of those nights. Horror, I hardly know her. Oh... My personal favorite one of those blank I hardly knew her jokes is Curtis Connor saying, gender? I hardly know. Them? Just allergies. It's just fall allergies. That gremlin very confusing as a child. Thank you. Alright. Dad thought about it, frowning hard. Okay, just for a little while, he agreed. Finally, the organ music grew louder as we stepped through the gate. Wow, look at this place, I cried. It really is like being in a horror movie. We were standing in a brown cobbled street. Strange dark cottages tilted up on both sides of the street. Tall trees along the street nearly blocked out all the sunlight. Take a shot of water every time he says street. The air carried a chill. Low howls, like wolf howls, floated out from around the cottages. Cool, Luke declared. A sign proclaimed, Welcome to Werewolf Village. Do not feed the werewolves if you can help it. The frightening howls grew louder. Luke and I laughed at the sign. I saw a green monster, one of the horrors, staring at us through a dark window. In the cottage, across the narrow street, another horror walked past us carrying a very real-looking human head. He grasped it by its long blonde hair and bounced it up and down, sort of like a yo-yo, as he walked. Cool, Luke proclaimed again. It seemed to be his word of the day. We walked along the cobbled street. The sound of our thudding sneakers echoed off the cottage walls. Oh, we all let out cries of surprise as a long, low, gray wolf ran in front of us. It disappeared around the side of a cottage before we really got a good look at it. Was that a real wolf? Clay asked, his voice shaking. Of course not, I told him. It was probably a dog, or else it was mechanical. Well, they certainly keep this park clean, Mom said, trying to sound cheerful. There isn't a piece of trash or dirt anywhere. Of course, it isn't very crowded. Dad lingered behind. I've got to find a phone, he said fretfully. I can't enjoy this until I know I have a way to get home. But dear, Mom started, there's gotta be a phone somewhere, Dad interrupted. Go on without me. No, I'll come with you, Mom said. You're in such a frantic state. You need me to make the call for us. The kids will have a better time without us hanging around anyway. Just leave your children to run off in a strange amusement park. Great idea. Leave them, Dad cried. You mean let them go on their own? See, the dad has common sense. Of course, Mom said, hurrying back to them. They'll be perfectly fine. This looks like a very nice place. What could happen? What could happen? With those words, Mom and Dad rushed off to find a phone. Meet back here, Mom called to us. Luke, Clay, and I were suddenly on our own. I turned to watch Mom and Dad hurry away. I turned back in time to see a gray wolf edge out from behind the cottage. It lowered its head and let out a rumbling, warning growl. All three of us froze as we realized its hungry red eyes were locked on us. Hi, Ellery. I am free from work. Now I can hang out and chat. Yay! Welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Woo! Hello, everybody. I know this is a big one. We've got a lot of people turning up today. Are any of them old enough? I think the daughter is like only, what, 12? Probably 13. Usually kids in Goosebump books are rarely ever older than that. So no, definitely not. The mom went to unknown theme parks and are dangerous to let the kids just wander in the span of about 3 minutes. Yup. More bad parents in Goosebump books. I do think the honorable mention goes to that one dad in You Can't Scare Me that was like, hey kids, you want to play a board game? You want a snack? You want to watch a TV show? But, you know, slim pickings for good parents in these books. I want to feed a werewolf too, Austin. Oh god, not just pearly things. Ugh. Sorry, I just saw somebody mention her in chat. Jaubrey has a great video about her, and it's crazy. Whatever gets the plot rolling, I guess. Yep. No trash equals my kids can't possibly be kidnapped. And don't go to the basement was good compared to Plant Dad. That's Goosebumps, right? Yeah. The poor dad. He just wanted to spend time with his kid in the last book. I know, right? I felt so bad. Make sure I have this on Goodreads. Is my internet broken? Maybe. No, it can't be, because I'm streaming. We want Plant Zaddy? Okay, here we go. Here's Goodreads. Oh, I didn't update. I didn't post when we read You Can't Scare Me either. Let me do this real quick. So anyway, yeah, the parents are never good in these books. I mean, it wouldn't really be an interesting read if the parents just kind of solved everything for them, but the parents are really truly awful. What day did we read You Can't Scare Me? That was like Wednesday. It was Wednesday. Okay, and then we're currently reading One Day at Horrorland. Okay, sorry. Just wanted to make sure I was up on our books. Mayor of my town. Oh, that's so cool, Natty. Go Natty's mom. went down for like half an hour at work yesterday. Not fun. Oof. Sorry about that. Always weird being from a small town. Yeah, I come from a small town. I mean, I live in a big city now, but definitely remember those small town vibes. Chapter 4. I cried out and pulled Luke and Clay back. The wolf slithered out, holding its head low, glaring up at us with wide red eyes, its mouth open hungry. I've never known a wolf to slither. It's real, Clay declared, swallowing hard. I had my hand on its shoulder. I could feel him trembling. The wolf let out a low growl, then it slid back behind the cottage wall. I think it's some kind of robot or something, I told Clay. Let's go somewhere else, Clay replied, suddenly very pale. What does that sign up there say? Luke asked. He went running over the dark cobblestones to the sign, and Clay and I followed. The sign read, "No pinching." Luke laughed. That's stupid. What a dumb sign, Clay agreed. That sign was meant just for you, Luke, I said. I exclaimed, sorry. I gave him a hard pinch on the arm. Hey, can't you read? He shouted angrily, pointing at the sign. I saw a green horror watching us from the street. Then I saw a family making its way behind the row of cottages. There was a mother, a father, and a little girl. The little girl was crying for some reason. The parents had their hands on her shoulders and looked very upset. A wolf howl cut through the air. Let's find some rides, Clay suggested. Some scary rides, Luke added. Walking side by side, keeping close together, we made our way out of the werewolf village. The street widened into a round plaza. Bright sunlight returned as soon as we stepped out of the village. Several purple and green buildings surrounded the plaza. I saw a few more families and several green costumed horrors keeping an eye on everything. A pudgy horror. Hey, don't body shame the horrors. Behind a purple and green cart was selling ice cream cones. Black ice cream. Yuck, Luke declared, making a face. We hurried past the cart, past another no pinching sign, and stopped in front of what appeared to be a tall purple mountain. It's a ride, I told them. A doorway was cut into the side of the mountain, and above the doorway was a sign. Doom slide. Will you be the one to slide forever? Cool, Luke cried, slapping Clay a high five. I'll bet you climb to the top, then slide all the way down, I said, pointing to the top of the mountain-shaped building. Let's go, Luke cried excitedly. We ran to the building and then through an open doorway in its side. It was dark and cold inside. A wide ramp curved up towards the top. I could hear kids squealing and laughing, but I couldn't see them. The three of us half walked, half ran up the ramp, eager to get to the top. About halfway up, we stopped to read another sign. Warning, you may be the one to slide to your doom. Life before cell phones. Easier to write horror. Luz, you didn't... If you're talking about the book, they're still in Horrorland. They're doing Horrorland things. Nothing major has happened. They're stranded because the car blew up. And the kids are on their own. How many pages is this one? $123. Okay. Wait. Let's go. We ran to the building through the open doorway in its side. It was dark and cold inside with a ramp curved toward the top. I could hear kids squealing and laughing, but I couldn't see them. The three of us half walked, half ran up the ramp, eager to get to the top. About halfway up, we stopped and read another sign. Warning, you may be the one to slide to your doom. Now I could hear kids screaming as they slid down, but it was too dark to see anything. Are you scared, Clay? I asked, noticing his tight expression. No way, he insisted, embarrassed by my question. I've seen these things before. They're like really huge sliding boards. You just sit on them and slide down. Hurry, Luke shouted, running ahead of us. Hey, wait up, I called. I followed them to the top of the ramp. We found ourselves on a wide platform. A row of long, curving sliding boards stretched to the end of the platform. The sliding boards were numbered from 1 to 10. In the dim light, I saw two horrors watching us approach. They stood in front of the sliding boards, their bulging yellow eyes lit up as we hurried over to them. Do you slide all the way down? Luke asked one of them. The horror nodded. Do you go really fast? Clay asked, lingering a few feet behind us. The horror nodded again. It's a long way down, he rumbled. Be careful which side you pick, the other horror warned. Don't pick the doom slide. He gestured to the number painted in black in front of each slide. Yes, don't pick the doom slide, his partner repeated. You'll slide down forever and ever. I laughed. He was just trying to scare us. Wasn't he? Good night, almost dead. Hey, Bjorn. The doom slide actually does sound fun, yeah. The slide is an infinity fall from Portal? I guess so. Natty, no. Hi, Jonathan. Can't trust these theme parks because horrors be lying. So, sounds like a ride. The doom slide. How can the first give yourself goosebumps? No idea. Oh, God. Hi, everybody in chat. Thank you for being here. Haven't been to a theme park since my last trip to Universal Orlando in 2019. When did I last go? It was probably... Yeah, I guess 2018 was my last year going. I'd like to go back, though. Oh, hey, guys. Random thing. I just noticed there are no more... Wait. Just noticed there are no more... Oh, for this year, like the games? No, we played all the games until either the new game comes out or next year. But we can read the books, and there's, you know... Next June. It's so funny because every time we get through, I'm like, nobody's gonna want to do this again next year, and then we're barely like done with them, and everybody's like, but I miss it, and I'm like, I kind of miss it too. We did it 2 years in a row. A long charity stream of Nancy Drew book in full. I'm sure we could do that. We've read Nancy Drew books in full. We done did it. Never a Nancy Drew. Nancy Drew is fun. We'll need to read some more of the books on the channel. Weird accents. Well, we might go back to doing some indie games, because if they start striking on video games tomorrow, we can't play Thai. So we'll have to have a backup plan. Hi, Tara. There is a Horrorland PC game. People were talking about that earlier in chat. Also, I should probably point this out. I activated memberships on the channel because I wanted us to have custom emojis, so we're testing some emojis, some custom ones. They're subject to change, of course, but I just wanted everybody to know that that's what I've been working on, because I wanted us to have a Kermit Hands meme. Hi, I've been here. Hi, Tara. It's good to see you. I like your profile picture. No worries. It's just an optional thing. I know some people super chat and wanted people to have some, something in return if they feel like, for donating. So that's an option. I put it up there. If there isn't a plant zaddy. I don't even know what a plant zaddy emoji would look like, but we might have to figure it out. Did we look into Capcom or Nintendo or Under the Strike? I'm not sure. I'll have to check. Let me read this chapter, and then we can keep ruminating on that. No, same. God, we might have to figure out. Wait, there's a stay out of the basement. Oh, please, Animal Crossing. There's the show, so I guess we could work off of that. Thank you, Chris. Green Gaston with his shirt open. Instead of hair, it's leaves. There's I think it's a Geico commercial right now where it's like, oh, the plants are alive, they're getting us, and like the kids and the dad have like the chainsaws, and it gives me Plant Zaddy vibes every single time. Because they're like, the plants, they're alive, and they're in the house. Alright, chapter 5. I chose slide number 3 because 3 is my lucky number. Luke sat down on top of the slide next to mine. Slide number 2. And Clay scrambled over to the far end and dropped down onto slide number 10. I glanced back to see what the horrors were doing, but before I could focus on them, I felt the bottom tilt underneath me. I let out a long, high-pitched shriek as I began to slide. I raised my arms over my head, leaned back, and screamed all the way down. My cries echoed in the enormous dark canyon of a doomslide building. It felt great. The slide curved, and I swirled down in the darkness faster and faster. In the shadowy light, I could see Luke in the slide next to mine. He was lying on his back, staring straight up with his mouth wide open. I tried to call out to him, but the slide curved away. I curved with it. Down, down. I was sliding so fast, the darkness became a solid blur. The slide curved up, then around, then down again. I'm a human roller coaster, I thought happily. Down, down, darker and darker. I'm sliding faster than the speed of light, I thought. I glanced from one side to the other, trying to see Luke and Clay, but it was too dark, and I was moving too fast. Too fast. And then, bump! A chute opened up. I hit the ground hard, landing on the seat of my jeans. Outside, I was back outside. That sounds really dangerous. Bump! Luke bounced out beside me. He hit the ground, still lying on his back, and made no attempt to get up. He grinned at me. Where am I? Back on the ground, I told him, climbing to my feet. I brushed off the back of my jeans, then reached around behind my head to straighten my braid. Great ride, huh? Let's go again, Luke said, still lying there. We can't go again if you don't get up, I said. Help me, he reached up a hand. I groaned as I tugged him to a sitting position. Get up yourself, I said impatiently. You were screaming in there, he told me. I did it on purpose, I said. I wanted to scream. Yeah, sure, he rolled his eyes. Then he pulled himself to his feet. Wow, I'm a little dizzy. How fast do you think we were going? I shrugged. Pretty fast, I think. It's so dark in there. It's hard to know how fast you're going. And then I realized we were missing a member of our sliding party. I stared at the closed chutes on the wall of the building. Hey, where's Clay? Huh? Luke had forgotten about him too. Poor Clay. We both stared at the side of the building, waiting for Clay to pop out. Where is he? Luke demanded shrilly. He couldn't be that much slower than us, could he? I shook my head. I was starting to feel really nervous. I had a heavy feeling in the pit of my stomach. And my hands were suddenly cold and clammy. Come on, Clay, I pleaded, staring at the wall. Come on out. Luke scratched his black hair. Where'd he go? He asked. Why didn't Clay come out? Maybe he came out the front, I said. Maybe slide number 10 dumps you out in front. Let's check it out. I need another tissue. Yep, young Ryan Gosling is in the Say Cheese and Die episode. And now he's Ken. As we ran around the building toward the front, I scolded myself for getting scared so easily. Of course Clay came out a different chute. He was probably waiting for us in front of the building. He's probably worried about us. As we rounded the purple building, the wide circular plaza came into view. I searched for Mom and Dad, but they weren't there. I saw a couple of other families on the other side of the circle and the pudgy green horror leaning on his ice cream cart. No sign of Clay. Luke and I kept running. Up to the front entrance of the doom slide, we stopped a few feet from the dark opening. He isn't here, Luke cried, struggling to catch his breath. I was breathing hard too, and the heavy feeling of dread in my stomach grew even heavier. No, Clay, I muttered. What are we going to do? Luke asked. His blue eyes were wide with fear. I saw a green horror woman standing just inside the entrance. Hey, I called as I ran over to her. Did you see a kid come out of there? I asked breathlessly. The yellow eyes on the horror's mask bulged and appeared to light up. No, this is the entrance. No one comes out here, she replied. He's blonde and he's sort of chubby. He wears glasses. Why do you have to say it like that? I told her. He's wearing a blue t-shirt and denim shorts. The horror shook her head. No one comes out this way. Did you check the back? Everyone comes out the back. He didn't, Luke said shrilly. We were there. He didn't come out. My brother's voice came out high and squeaky. He was breathing so hard. His chest was heaving up and down. He was in panic. I was frightened too, but I knew I had to stay calm for Luke's sake. He didn't come out the back, I told the horror, and he didn't come out the front. So what happened to him? The horror was silent for a long moment. Then she said in a low voice, just above a whisper, maybe your friend chose the doom slide. Uh-oh. Next chapter's short. Alright. Animal Crossing has an anime movie? Huh? Hi, Cameron. He is Knuff. Yes, he is. He is Knuff. Natasha had made and was giving out at con. She made some D20s that were pink and blue, and they said, I'm Knuff. They were very cute. Owl and Little Bear? I did not know that. Small world. I stared at the woman in the horror costume. You're joking, right? I stammered. I mean, the doom slide. That's just a joke. She stared back with her bulging yellow eyes and didn't reply. The signs give a warning, she says. There's always a warning. She turned and disappeared into the dark entrance. Luke and I goggled at each other. I swallowed hard. My throat suddenly felt very dry. My hands were cold as ice now. This is stupid, Luke muttered. He jammed his hands into his jeans pocket. It's just a dumb slide. Why is she trying to scare us? I guess that's her job, I told him. We've got to find Mom and Dad, Luke muttered. We've got to find Clay first, I told him. If Mom and Dad find out we lost Clay, they'll get angry and make us go home as soon as we find him. Well, that's really their fault for leaving kids in charge of other kids, but, you know. Just saying. If we find him, Luke said glumly. If we find him. I glanced back across the plaza. No mom and dad. 2 teenagers were buying black ice cream cones from the horror at the cart. 2 horrors were sweeping the plaza with push brooms working side by side. Far in the distance, I could hear the howl of a wolf from the werewolf village. The sun was high in the sky now. I could feel it beaming down on top of my head and on my shoulders, but I still felt cold all over. Clay, where are you? I asked, thinking out loud. He's sliding forever, Luke said, shaking his head. Sliding forever and ever on the doom slide. That's dumb, I replied, but Luke had given me an idea. Come on, I said, tugging his sleeve of his t-shirt. I started pulling him to the dark entrance. Huh? Where? Luke pulled back. We'll go on the slide again, I told him. His mouth dropped open in protest. Without Clay? We can't go on it again without Clay. We're going to find Clay, I said, grabbing his arm, this time and pulling him to the dark, open doorway. You mean my brother was starting to catch on? I nodded. Yes, we'll follow him. We'll take the same slide he took. Slide number 10, Luke murmured, and then he added in a solemn whisper, the doom slide. We'll take it, and it'll lead us right to him, I said. We climbed the ramp in silence. The rapid thud of our sneakers echoed in the vast hollow mountain. We ran past the sign about halfway up to the top. I read it again as I passed by. Warning, you may be the one to slide to your doom. Clay, are you still sliding? I wondered. I shook my head hard, shaking away the thought. Of course he wasn't still sliding. What a stupid idea. The 2 horrors were still standing at the top of the slide. Be careful which slide you pick, one of them warned. We know which one we want, I said breathlessly. Slide number 10, both of us, together. The horror nearest the slide motioned for us to sit down. I glanced at Luke, who stood right behind me, his features tight with fear. He tugged me back a few steps. Maybe we shouldn't, he whispered. Why not? I demanded impatiently. What if the warning is true? Luke demanded. Don't be dumb, I scolded him. This is an amusement park, remember? They don't kill kids or send them sliding to their doom. It's all for fun. Luke swallowed hard. You sure? Of course I'm sure, I replied. Now, do you want to find Clay or not? Luke nodded. Then let's go, I ordered. I sat down at the top of slide number 10. Luke plopped down right beside me, stretching his legs outside of mine. I felt the floor tilt up beneath us. We started to slide. Clay, here we come, I cried. All right. Anime Crossing. R.I.P. Clay, I barely knew thee. Should slide forever. Slide has to come. Luke has all the brain cells. Lizzie, that's her name, right? Lizzie, she's too stressed out from having to be the emotional lightning rod of the family. It ends in hell, I don't know. Guess we'll find out. Alright. I didn't scream this time. I clasped my hands in my lap and gritted my teeth. There was no way I was going to enjoy this ride. I just wanted to get to the end of it. I wanted to solve the mystery and find Clay. As we slid down together, Luke grabbed onto me, his hands gripping my waist. He cried out when we slid over a big bump, and it felt as if we were going to go flying off the slide. Then we both screamed as the slide took a steep dive, almost straight down, and we started to fall. We landed hard, and then the slide curved sharply to the right. We were both screaming our lungs out now. We were sliding faster and faster in total darkness, blacker than black. I tried to see if we were moving alongside the other slides, but it was so dark I couldn't even see my sneakers in front of me. Oh, that would get me. I don't like darkness. The boiling aisles. Luke squeezed my waist. I know. I understand that reference. Luke squeezed my waist so hard I could hardly breathe. I tried to tell him to loosen his grip, but he was screaming too loud to hear. Down, down, darker and darker. We hit another bump that sent us bouncing into thin air. Then the slide dipped and curved sharply to the left. We should be at the bottom by now, I realized. We'd been sliding a very long time. I gritted my teeth harder and tried to brace myself to go flying out the chute and bumped into the ground, but no chute opened. The ride didn't end. We began to slide faster. I gasped in my mouthfuls of the hot, damp air, struggling to catch my breath. The slide dipped and curved, sending us down into thick, heavy blackness. We're going to slide forever. The warning sign didn't lie. I struggled to force those frightening thoughts from my mind. Luke suddenly got very quiet. Are you okay? I called back to him. I don't know, he replied, holding even tighter. Why are we sliding so long? You're hurting me, I cried. He loosened his hold a little. I don't like this, he shouted in my ear. We hit another bump. His hands flew off me. Another bump, even harder. I thought I was going to fly off the slide and fall to the bottom. If there was a bottom. Down, down. Luke and I both cried out in disgust as something sticky covered our faces. I reached up with both hands and tried to pull it off. Yuck, Luke screamed. What is it? My face. It's like cobwebs, I shot back at him. Hot, sticky cobwebs. My whole face itched. The sticky threads covered my face like a net. I pulled frantically at them. Oh, I cried out as the slide took another sharp dip. Tearing at the sticky cobwebs, I managed to pull most of them off, but my face still itched like crazy. It felt as if 1,000 ants were crawling around on it. Ah, I hate that. It's so gross, Luke yelled behind me. My face, it hurts. Down, down into the heavy darkness, and then a flare of bright light made me shut my eyes. Was it daylight? Were we heading outside? No. I forced my eyes open and squinted at the yellow light and realized I was staring at blazing flames. The slide ahead of us was on fire. The yellow and orange flames raged up, topped by a curtain of billowing black smoke. I raised my hands to my face and started to shriek. Why were we sliding right into the blazing flames? We're going to burn up, Luke screamed. Help! Somebody, help us! They didn't have budget for that either in the episode. They really did slide to hell. Universal. Oh, yeah, I don't... None of that mental image was comfy for me. Oh, so Bopper was right. Actual hell. Yeah, it's time to freak out at this point. I fell down, down, down in the burning ring of fire. I shut my eyes and felt a powerful burst of heat, almost like an explosion. I'm burning up, I thought. Burning up. Burning up. Burning up. Sorry. I was a Jonas Brothers girly back in the day. A wish of cool air made me open my eyes. The fire was behind us now. We had sailed right through it. Curving gently, we slid through cool darkness. I could still see the orange flicker of flames reflected on the dark wall above us. Harlstein, this homeboy just wrote 3, 4, like a whole chapter and a half of just 2 kids on a slide. I was gonna say this bitch, and then that felt disrespectful, because we, you know, this bitch, affectionate, just wrote a chapter and a half about 2 kids on a slide. Hot sticky cobwebs is a terrible sentence. Mr. Toad's Wild Ride, where you go to hell, or so I'm told. I never actually rode that ride. It was only in California. Curving gently, we slid through cool darkness. I could still see the orange flicker of flames reflected on the dark walls above us. Luke and I were both silent. I was waiting for my heart to stop thudding in my chest. Great special effects, Luke cried. He let out a wild laugh, a frantic laugh I'd never heard before. The fire was fake, I realized. Some kind of projection or something. I sucked in mouthfuls of cool air. I had never been so terrified in my life. When does this ride end? Luke cried. His voice had become high and frightened. Never, I thought glumly. We really are going to slide forever. As that frightening thought lingered in my mind, a chute opened in front of us. Daylight streamed in. Bump. I landed hard on soft grass. A few seconds later, Luke dropped out behind me. I blinked several times, waiting for my eyes to adjust to the bright sun. Then I climbed slowly to my feet, my heart still pounding. A yellow and green sign on a wooden pole stood directly in front of us. It read, "Welcome to Doom. Population, 0 humans." Standing next to the sign was Clay. He came rushing over to greet us, a happy smile on his round pink face. "Hey, guys, hey," he called. "Where have you been?" He slapped Luke a high five, then Luke gave him a playful punch in the stomach. "Where have we been?" I asked. "Where have you been?" "Right here," Clay replied. I didn't know where I was. I think this is the other side of the park or something, so I just waited for you. Hug a tree. Stay where you are. "We went back to the Doom slide," Luke explained. "We took your slide, number 10. What a ride. It was so cool." A few seconds ago, Luke had been shrieking in real terror. Now he was pretending he loved it, telling Clay how cool it was. I mean, the scary thing is always fun to look back on once you know you're not in danger. Other side of the park. That is fun. Living up to the name. That's 21. Ooh. Thank you guys for liking the stream. It does help us a lot. New friends find our channel through the stream all the time, so thank you, Bopper. I was gonna say something else. Give me a second. I have to sneeze. Excuse me. Oh, Taylor, you found us through Read Stream? Yay! See, guys, when you like the stream, it populates it out to other people. I did, Patrick. Thank you for sending them. And was given a thimble of scotch. Probably not a good mix. Ooh, you're gonna sleep real good. Yeah, go to sleep, Texas. Scamilton and that Texas church, Beauty and the Beast. Oh, good times. Good times. I think like a quarter of all the current subscribers on this channel subscribed after that video. Pretending he loved it, telling Clay how cool it was. "You picked a good slide," Luke told Clay. "Wow, it was excellent." "I was kind of scared," Clay confessed. "I mean, the fire." "Great special effects," my brother exclaimed. "This park is awesome." Luke was such a phony. There was no way he would ever admit that he had been worried about Clay, and no way he'd admit that the long slide to doom had terrified him. But I was glad to see his old enthusiasm return. I really didn't like seeing my brother frightened and in a panic. "It was kind of a long slide," Clay said, frowning. His feathery blonde hair glowed in the bright sunlight. "A little too long, I think." "I'd like to go on it again," Luke boasted. I turned and gazed around. We were definitely in another section of Horrorland. Nothing looked familiar. Across the wide walkway, I saw several kids in bathing suits heading down a sandy path. The sign over the path read, "Horror Rapids." To our right, a square-shaped building made of glass reflected the bright sunlight. The glass was shimmering brightly as if on fire. Squinting into the light, I could just barely make out the sign in front of it. "House of Mirrors." "Let's try House of Mirrors," Luke urged, pulling Clay by the arm. "Whoa, wait a minute," I cried. "Don't you think we should try to find Mom and Dad?" They're way over on the other side of the park, Luke replied, tugging Clay along with him across the pavement. Let's have some fun and then find them. They're probably looking for us, I said fretfully. The park isn't very crowded. They'll find us, Luke replied. Come on, Lizzie. It looks like fun. I hesitated, thinking about Mom and Dad. I stared into the white glare of the glass building. Suddenly, I felt someone tap my shoulder. Startled, I cried out and spun around. It was a green costumed horror. His bulging eyes stared into mine and he leaned close to me. Get away while you can, he whispered. He turned his eyes quickly from side to side and if making sure no one was watching him. Please, I'm serious. Get away while you can. Well, considering we still have like 2/3 of the book left, they probably didn't do that. Hi, Paulo. The stream if you haven't already. Is Luke okay? No, I don't think so. I strongly dislike the state of Texas. Through those two, but my true claim to being part of this channel was Nancy Drew. Yes, Nancy Drew Clue Crew. Alright, I was so stunned I didn't say anything. I watched him run off, moving awkwardly in the bulky horror costume, his purple tail dragging over the pavement behind him. Like a big, sad Barney. I added that commentary, but that's what I'm picturing. Tomorrow, if you can't play the game. I guess we'll have to see. We'll probably have to do something that Maddie can do with us if we're going to still stream, but we'll figure it out. What did he want? Clay called. He and Luke were nearly up to the House of Mirrors entrance. He said we should get out while we can, I stammered, running over to them. I lost them for a moment in the blinding sunlight reflecting off the glass building. Luke laughed. These horror guys are great, he declared. They really try to scare you in this place. Behind his glasses, Clay's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. He was kidding, right? He asked quietly. I mean, it was just a joke, wasn't it? I don't know, I told him. I guess so. I watched the horror disappear quickly behind a tall, blue pyramid-shaped building. That's his job, Luke insisted. He goes around scaring people all day. Maybe he was really warning us, Clay murmured, staring at me. No way, Luke declared. He gave Clay a hard slap on the back. Stop looking so gloomy all the time. This is a great place. You like to be scared, don't you? Clay's expression remained worried. I guess, he replied uncertainly. I started to tell Clay I was sure it was just a joke, but Luke interrupted. Hurry up, let's check out the House of Mirrors. Let's have some fun before Mom and Dad show up and make us leave. He dragged Clay towards the entrance and I followed. We passed another no pinching sign as we made our way to the shimmering glass building. Outside the entrance, I stopped to read the yellow and green sign. It read, House of Mirrors, reflect before you enter. No one may ever see you again. Hey, wait up, I called to the boys. They had already hurried inside. I stepped in and found myself in a narrow, dark tunnel. My eyes were still filled with the bright glare from outside. I couldn't see a thing. Luke, Clay, wait up, I shouted. My voice echoed through the low tunnel. I could hear them laughing up ahead. I jogged blindly, ducking my head because the ceiling was so low. Finally, my eyes adjusted to the darkness. The tunnel ended, and I found myself in a narrow corridor with mirrored walls and a mirrored ceiling. Oh, I uttered a low cry. I could see my reflections, dozens of them. I seemed to surround myself. I stopped for a moment and adjusted my long black braid. It was always coming loose. When I called again to the boys, Where are you? Wait up. I could hear them giggling somewhere up ahead. Try and find us, Luke called, more giggling. I made my way quickly through the mirrored walkway. The walls curved to the right, then the left. My reflections followed me, stretching deep into the mirror, dozens and dozens of me, getting smaller and smaller, stretched to infinity. Hey, don't get too far ahead, I cried. I heard them giggling. Then I heard a rumble of footsteps that seemed to come from the other side of the mirrored wall. I followed the corridor, walking slowly, carefully, until I saw a narrow opening up ahead. Wait right there, I'm coming through, I called. I started through the opening and bonk, hit my forehead on solid glass. Just makes me think of Adam McIntyre when he's like, bonk, bonk. Ow, I cried out as the pain jolted across my forehead, then down the back of my neck, all the way down my spine. I raised my hands to the glass and waited for my dizziness to fade away. Lizzie, where are you? Try to find us, I heard Luke call. I hit my head, I shouted, rubbing my forehead. I could hear him and Clay laughing. Their voices seemed to be behind me now. I turned back, but there were only mirrors behind me, no opening. My head still ached a little, but the dizziness had gone away. I started walking again, more carefully this time. I kept both hands out in front of me so I wouldn't bump into anything again. I turned a corner and stepped into a different room. To my surprise, the floor in this room was a mirror. The walls, the ceiling, the floor were all mirrors. It felt as if I were standing inside a mirrored box. I took a few careful steps. It felt so weird walking on my own reflection. I could see the tops and the bottoms of my sneakers as I walked. It made it really hard to walk. I kept having the feeling that I was going to fall into myself. Hey guys, where are you? I called. No reply. I felt a sharp stab of fear in my stomach. Luke, Clay, are you there? I saw the mouths of my reflections move as I called out, dozens of mouths, but only one voice came out. My voice, tiny and shrill. Luke? Clay? Silence. Don't fool around, guys, I shouted. Where are you? Silence. No reply. I stared at the dozens of reflections on all sides of me. They all looked very frightened. Luke? Clay? Where had they gone? Alright, hang on. Oh, we're on page 46, my lucky number. Percy Jackson TikToks from YouTube. Found the camp's YouTube channel. Oh, that's funny. That's really cool, actually. I didn't know there was a real Camp Half-Blood. They credit the people who make the videos. That's good. It's just like a fan account, it sounds like. Or like an archive. Alright, let's see here. Thank you for 25 likes on the stream. I appreciate it. I stared at my reflection as horrifying as thoughts swept over me. Had the boys really disappeared? Had they fallen into some kind of trap? Were they lost in the maze of glass and mirrors? Horrorland was too scary, I decided. It was fun to be scared, but it was too hard to tell whether the scares here were for fun or for real. Were there dangers in this place, or was it all a big, scary joke? Luke, Clay, I called to them in a trembling voice, turning all around, searching for an exit. Silence. Then I heard a muffled giggle. Then I heard whispering voices, nearby. Nearby is a full sentence? I don't think so. Another giggle, louder this time, Luke's giggle. They had been playing a little joke on me. Hey, you're not funny, I screamed angrily. Really not funny? I could hear both burst out laughing. Come and find us, Lizzie, Luke called. What's taking you so long? Clay added. More giggling. It seemed to come from just up ahead. Sliding my hands along the mirrors, I followed the hallway around to the right. I had to duck my head to slip through a narrow opening between the mirrors. I found myself in another small room surrounded by mirrors above and below and on all sides. The mirrors were tilted at strange angles so that my reflections appeared to bounce off each other as I moved. Where are you? I'm getting close. Am I getting closer? I called. The light grew dim as I made my way through the room. My reflections darkened. The shadow grew longer. We can't see you, Clay called. Hurry up, Luke shouted impatiently. I'm going as fast as I can, I screamed. Just don't move, okay? Stay in one place. We are, Luke called back. How will I ever get out of here? I heard Clay ask him in a low voice. Ow! I bumped my head against one section of the clear glass. I pounded my fist angrily on the glass. This wasn't any... That's a bad idea. Don't do that. It sounds dangerous. This wasn't any fun, I decided. It was too painful. More pages in this chapter. Not... Okay, so like 3. 4. Sorry. Talking to myself, trying to figure out how many pages I have left in the chapter. Hurry up, Luke called from somewhere nearby. It's boring waiting here for you. I'm coming, I muttered, rubbing my poor aching forehead. I turned a corner and stepped into a wide room. No mirrors here. The walls were all glass. I stopped to gaze around, and there was Luke. Finally, he cried. Why wouldn't you find us? I kept hitting my head, I told him. Let's get out of here. Where's Clay? Huh? Luke's mouth dropped open in surprise. He spun around searching for his friend. He was standing right here, he said. Luke, I'm in no mood for any more dumb jokes, I said sharply. Clay, where are you hiding? I'm not hiding. I'm over here, Clay called. I took a few steps closer to my brother, and Clay came into view. He was standing in deep shadows behind a glass wall, his hands pressed against the pane. How did you get over there? Luke asked Clay. I moved toward my brother, then stopped. I suddenly realized that he was behind a wall of glass. Luke and I were in different rooms. Hey, where's the opening? I asked him. Luke glanced around. What do you mean, Lizzie? You and I were not in the same room, I replied, walking up to the glass wall and tapping it with my fist. Huh? Luke's face filled with surprise. He made his way over to me. Then he tapped on his side of the glass, as if making sure it really did exist. How'd that get there? He murmured. He didn't murder. That's something different. Clay started moving around his room, sliding his hands along the panes of glass, searching for the opening. Stand right there, I told Luke. I'll find a way into your room. I followed Clay's example. I moved slowly around the room, keeping a hand pressed against the glass. The light was dim. My shadow fell over the glass. As I walked, I could see my face reflected darkly in the glass. My eyes stared back at me, dark and desperate. Before I realized it, I had made a complete circle. I was back to where I had started, and there was no opening, no doorway, no way out. Hey, I'm trapped in here, Clay called shrilly. So am I told him. There's gotta be an opening, Luke said. How did we get in? You're right, I replied fretfully. We should be able to get out the way we came in. I began to search along the walls again, moving quickly. My heart began to pound. I had a fluttering feeling in my chest. There had to be a way. There had to be. Luke pounded hard on the glass. In the other room, I could see Clay jogging frantically around his room, pushing on the walls as he moved. I went all the way around twice, then stopped. There was no way out. I'm trapped, I stammered. It's like a box, a glass box. We're all trapped, Clay cried. Luke was still pounding frantically on the glass with his fists. Luke, stop, I cried shrilly. That isn't helping. He lowered his fists to the sides. This is ridiculous, he muttered. There's got to be a way out. Maybe there's a trap door or something, I suggested. I began to search the mirrored floor. It was too dark to see well. The floor appeared solid to me. I returned to the glass wall. This isn't much fun, I said glumly. Luke and Clay nodded. I could see they were both really frightened. So was I, but I decided I was 2 years older than them, so I had to try to be the brave one. This kid needs so much therapy, and all the scary stuff hasn't even happened yet. Or most of the scary stuff hasn't happened yet. I guess some scary stuff has happened, but it's nothing compared to what's gonna happen. Watcher in the Woods. Yes. To fake Harry Potter camp back when everything seemed so literally mascot names. Ah, that's funny. I wasn't feeling very brave though. Utterly Uttering a worried sigh, I leaned against the wall that separated Luke and me, and as I leaned on the wall and started to move, I jumped back with a sharp cry. The wall was sliding toward me, closing in on me. I took another step back. Glancing around frantically, I saw that all the walls were sliding in. "Luke!" I cried, turning to see him backing up, too. "The walls!" Clay cried. "Help me!" "They're sliding in on me, too!" Luke screamed. "Each room must have its own glass walls." All three of us were trapped. With a desperate groan, I threw myself against one of the walls and tried to push it back, but I couldn't stop it. The box was closing in, growing smaller, smaller. "We're going to be crushed!" I cried. Oh, this is a really short chapter right here. Always wanted to go into a house of mirrors. That movie, Us, that Jordan Peele movie, gave me a terrible fear of mirrors, so I don't think I could do that now. Lost at an amusement park. I once got lost briefly at Six Flags when I was like 6. I've gotten separated from my group, like, as an adult, but I was never lost as a kid. The rest is just blank pages. Oh my god, R.L. Stine would do something like that. Do you guys remember when Lemony Snicket had those, like, blacked out pages because he didn't have any words to describe the pitch blackness that the Baudelaires were seeing? Or he kept writing the one sentence over and over because the kid was reading the one sentence over and over and over. Chapter 11. "Do something, please, do something," Clay was screaming. Luke lowered his shoulder to the glass and struggled to stop it from moving, but it wasn't strong enough. The walls kept sliding in on him. I backed up, my hands raised like a shield. Closer, closer, the glass walls moved slowly, silently. I backed up until my back hit the wall behind me. There was nowhere to go. "Do something! Somebody do something!" Clay's terrified screams rang in my ears. "The glass! It's squeezing me!" Luke shrieked. "Lizzie! I can't move!" I shouted to him. The panes of glass began to press in on me from all sides, above and below, too. If you have claustrophobia, I'm so sorry. Series of Unfortunate Events. I'll read them on the channel at some point for sure, because I loved them as a kid. I have all of them. And the movie and the TV show, I'm a big fan. The panes of glass began to press in on me from all sides, above and below, too. I suddenly pictured one of those crushed cars. You know, the cars that are crushed into a perfect square in the big compactor machine. Actually, it's a cube. Sorry. My entire body shuddered as I realized I was going to be crushed into a perfect square, too. "Ow!" I cried out as the glass pressed down on me. "Somebody help!" I tried to scream, but my voice came out a muffled yelp. It was getting hard to breathe. "Is there anyone out there? 'Cause it's getting harder and harder." Okay. The glass panes moved in tighter, tighter. I gasped for air. I tried to push with all my might against the glass, but it was no use. I was being crushed into a human square cube. Sorry. Storybook being sold on one site for $2 million. Got a bunch of blank pages. The replica, $40. It has the OG novel in it. Nice. We love that. We do love that. Lemony Snicket had no chill. Did anybody as a kid read The Secret series by Pseudonymous Bosch? Because it has very Lemony Snicket Series of Unfortunate Event vibes, but it's it was written a few years after. And I loved it as a kid. It talked about synesthesia, and I felt seen. Although it technically gives an inaccurate description of synesthesia, kind of, but it's a more exaggerated, like, magical version of synesthesia. But still, it was good. I loved it. I have all the books and I want to read them. The benefit of the doubt. Maybe he was writing for the perspective of a kid unfamiliar with Euclidean geometry. Possibly, yeah. I couldn't hear Luke or Clay anymore. I could only hear my gasping, choking breaths. I shut my eyes. Ooh, this is like giving me a visceral reaction. Okay. And I felt the floor drop away, and before I realized what was happening, I was falling rapidly down. I opened my eyes in time to see the glass walls roll above me as I slid down through an open chute, and in a few seconds I was back outside, I landed sitting up on the grass with a gentle thud. Luke and Clay came sliding out beside me. For a long moment we sat on the grass, blinking in the bright sunlight, staring at each other in disbelief. "We're okay," Clay said uncertainly, finally breaking the silence. He slowly climbed to his feet. His round face was bright red, and his glasses were crooked and nearly falling off his nose. "We're okay." Luke let out a laugh, a gleeful laugh. He stood up and began jumping up and down for joy. I didn't exactly feel like jumping up and down. I was still picturing the crushed car. Luke reached down, grabbed both of my hands, and pulled me to my feet. "What should we do next?" he demanded, grinning. "Huh, next," I cried. "Are you for real?" "That was really scary," Clay said, his face still red. "I thought we were going to be scrunched flat." "It was awesome," Luke declared. Once again, he was forgetting that a few seconds before he'd been screaming in total panic. "It was way too scary," Clay murmured, shaking his head. "Clay's right," I agreed. "It was too scary to be fun. One more second, and don't you see? That's the whole idea," Luke cried. "That's how they scare you here. It's awesome. They make you think that one more second and you're a goner, but it's all perfectly timed. They want you to be terrified, and then poof, you're okay." This kid would love Action Park. "I guess you're right," said Clay doubtfully. He pushed up his glasses, then rubbed his chin. "We're not really going to get hurt or anything." Luke continued, "This is an amusement park, remember? They want you to come back again and again, so they're not going to really hurt anybody." "Oh, children." "Maybe," Clay said. "But Luke, what if they mess up?" I asked. "What if the machines get goofed up? What if the timing gets off?" Luke said. "Let's say the floor underneath us got stuck. Then what?" Luke didn't reply. He stared back at me thoughtfully. "What would have happened to us if the floor hadn't dropped away at the right moment?" I demanded. Luke shrugged. "They make sure everything works okay," he answered finally. I rolled my eyes. "Yeah, sure. Is it possible to really be scared to death?" Clay asked me, a solemn expression on his face. "I mean, I know it happens in books and movies, but does it happen in real life? I mean, I think technically that's called a heart attack, but, you know." "I don't know, maybe," I replied. "I'll bet people could get scared to death in that house of mirrors," Clay continued seriously. "No way," Luke insisted. "Listen to me. This is just a place for fun. Scary fun." He was watching something over my shoulder. I turned to see one of the guys in a green horror costume walking by, carrying a huge bouquet of black balloons. Luke hurried up beside the horror. "Hey, has anyone ever died here in this park?" Luke asked. The horror kept walking. The black balloons bobbled over his head. "Only once," he told Luke. "One person died here?" Luke asked. The horror shook his big green head. "No, not what I meant." "What did you mean?" Luke demanded. "A person can only die once here," the horror said. "No one has ever died twice." He's got jokes. "Luke, don't be dumb." To be fair, Luke's like 10. I think 10-year-olds' prerogative is to be dumb. Rides do go wrong sometimes. Growing up to be Percy, yes. Not Action Park. Gooflumps. We might have to do a podcast episode on Action Park, because it's so wild. The whole story is just crazy. Tombstone. Oh, that's funny. Tomby Stone. Tombstone. Action Park is a wild story, Chris. I'm fascinated and horrified by it. Yes, there is a Defunctland episode on Action Park. It is a great video. Everybody definitely recommend go checking it out. It's so baffling. It's crazy. It's absolutely insane. All right. We're at just about the halfway mark of the book. Let's see. I have a little bit of tea left. I'm going to have to go get a water soon. Do you mean people have really died here? I shouted. This is chapter 13. But the horror walked quickly on, the black balloons bouncing against each other, floating darkly against the clear blue sky. The horror's answer made me shiver. It wasn't just his words, it was the cold tone of his voice, the way he made it sound like a warning. He was joking, right? Clay asked in a trembling voice. He scratched his blonde hair nervously. Yeah, I guess, I replied. A family walked past us, heading toward the House of Mirrors. They had 2 little boys with them, both about 5 or 6, and both of them were crying. I've seen so many crying kids in this park, I commented. They're just wimps. Oh, jeez, Luke replied. Scaredy cats. Let's go find another ride or something. No, Luke, you're in danger, sir. No, I really think we should find Mom and Dad, I told him. Yeah, let's go find them, Clay said eagerly. The poor kid. I think he was really scared, but he was trying his best not to let my brother see how frightened he was. Aw, what's the hurry? Luke protested. Let them find us. But they're probably really worried, I insisted. I started walking toward the front gate. Dad will only make us leave, Luke grumbled. But he followed anyway, and Clay gratefully came along, keeping close to my side. Following the trail, we passed by a rickety old wooden roller coaster. It rose up as high as a 4-story building, casting a wide, dark shadow over the walk. A sign in front read, "Out of order. Do you dare ride it anyway?" The gate was open. There was no attendant. Hey, Lizzie, want to ride it? Luke asked, staring at the beat-up old cars parked in the bottom of the tracks. No way, Clay and I replied. Excuse me. In unison, we kept on walking. The trail curved under thick trees, and we were suddenly in the shade. A sign read, "Beware of tree snakes." Nope, don't like that. Don't like that. Just moved my feet up onto my chair because of how much I don't like that. Clay covered his head with his hands. All 3 of us raised our eyes to the trees. Were there really snakes up there? Random video about theme parks. Clay's video. I think I heard about it first from an old episode of Good Mythical Morning back in the day. I think a lot of us have that experience where you don't know what something is until Defunctland educates us, and it's great. Let's see. Were there really snakes up there? It was too dark to see anything. The leaves were so thick, no sunlight filtered through. Suddenly, I heard a gentle hissing sound. At first, I thought it was just the rustle of the leaves, but then the hissing grew louder until all of the trees seemed to be hissing down at us. Like the cicadas here in Georgia. It just sounds like the trees are screaming at you. Run! I cried. The 3 of us started running along the trail, ducking low, our sneakers thudding hard on the pavement. The hissing in the trees above us grew louder, angrier. I thought I saw long, dark snakes slithering in the grass beside the trail, but it might have just been a shadow. We kept running even after the trees ended and we were in sunlight again. The trail curved past a row of evil-looking statues. They were made of pure stone. They were statues of grinning monsters, eyes narrowed, menacing fangs lowered from their twisted mouths. Their arms were outstretched, ready to grab anyone who came close. I slowed to a trot, my eyes on the ugly statues. Suddenly, I heard a low, evil laughter. Maybe don't insult the creepy statues. They'll hold a grudge. It's coming from the statues, Clay exclaimed. Keep running. Did the statues move toward us? Did they raise their arms higher? Did they beckon us to come closer? Oh God, it's a weeping angel. I'm not sure. With their evil laughter in my ears, I lowered my head and turned on the speed. All three of us were panting hard. Give me a second. All three of us were panting hard as we ran along the trail. I didn't see any other people. I didn't see anyone in horror costumes either. We slowed as we came to another sign. This one had an arrow pointing in the direction we were running. It read, "Front exit, don't bother, you will never escape." Comforting. I caught the worried expression on Clay's face as he read the sign. It's only a joke, I told him. The signs are supposed to be funny. Ha ha, he said weakly. He was panting hard, struggling to catch his breath. Without warning, Luke jumped on Clay's shoulders. Hey, Clay, how about a ride? Clay cried out angrily. Get off! Luke laughed and hung on. Clay dropped to his knees, trying to throw Luke off. Come on, guys, I pleaded. Luke, stop being such a goof. We're trying to find Mom and Dad. But now they were laughing and wrestling on the ground. Come on, guys, I shouted, rolling my eyes. Let's go. I tugged my brother to his feet. Clay's glasses had flown off. He stopped to pick them up from the grass. Then we could continue on our way. The path led past a rectangular flower garden filled with black flowers. Then it suddenly came to a stop in front of a large red barn. The boys walked up to the open doorway of the barn. I stayed back, searching for a pathway that led around the barn. I couldn't see one. The path goes right through the barn to the other side, Luke called to me. Come on, Lizzie, he mentioned for me to join them. No, I'm not sick. I just have some allergies if you're asking about me. I'm fine. Sorry for the annoyance. Okay. I stayed back searching for a path that led around the barn. I couldn't see one. The path goes right through the... Hello? Whoever needs me, I will message you back when I'm not on live. I'm so sorry. The path goes right through the barn to the other side, Luke called to me. Come on, Lizzie. He motioned for me to join them. I spotted a small sign painted to the right of the barn's double doors. It read, Bat Barn. Hey, are there bats in there? I called, feeling a cold shudder run down my back. I like most animals, but bats really give me the creeps. They're cute. I know they technically can carry rabies, but they're adorable. Luke stepped inside the barn. Clay hung back, standing just outside the door. I don't see any, Luke called out to me. It's kind of dark. A strange odor invaded my nostrils. It was strong and sour. It came from the barn. I didn't want to go in there. Come on, Lizzie, Luke called. The path goes right on the other side. Don't be chicken. You can run straight through. I stepped up beside Clay at the doorway and peered inside the barn. It looks okay, Clay said quietly. The sour odor was much stronger. Yuck, I said, making a face. It really stinks. Luke stood inside the barn, his eyes raised to the rafters. I don't see anything up there, he reported. Doors on the opposite wall were wide open. It would only take 10 seconds to run through the barn and out the other side, I realized. Uh-oh. Famous last words. Let's go, I told Clay. He and I stepped into the barn. The sour smell was overpowering. I held my breath and pinched my fingers over my nose. We started running to the doors on the opposite wall, and they slammed shut. With a gasp of surprise, I turned back to the doors we had entered. They slammed shut, too. "Hey," I shouted angrily. "What's going on?" Clay cried in a whisper. We were totally in darkness, blacker than black, and the sour odor swept over me. I started to feel sick, and then I heard the rapid flutter of wings. Soft at first, then louder, closer. I screamed as I felt something brush against the back of my neck. That would be the bats. Eureka's castle. Don't want to deal with a bat. Rabies vector. Baby bats are so adorable. The bee monsters. Respect bats, and not just because of the rich guy with portable tow cables. I'm going to the Lakeside Amusement Park. Look, they should have just gone to Zoo Gardens or wherever the hell they were going. It might be Grandpa Munster. True. You don't want to disrespect good old Grandpa Munster. Chapter 14. Alright. We're getting there. Go away! I let out a low moan of horror and swung my hands wildly above my head. The rapid fluttering retreated, then returned. "Bats!" Clay cried in a terrified, tiny voice. I felt him grab my arm. "I can't see," Luke shouted. "It's so dark." "I hate bats," I stammered. I felt a cold whoosh of air as a bat flapped over my head. I swung my hands wildly. The flapping, fluttering sounds were all around us. As my eyes slowly adjusted to the darkness, I began to see shadowy shapes shooting past, back and forth, faster and faster. I felt one brush my shoulder. I felt one brush my shoulder. "Oh, help!" I cried. Clay started to shriek. "Help us! Help us! They're zooming right at me," Luke wailed. Something bumped into my shoulder. I screamed. "Help us! Help us!" Clay continued to plead at the top of his lungs. His shouts were nearly drowned out by the flapping wings. I felt another bat brush against my shoulder, covering my face. I tried to make my way blindly to the door. The sour odor choked me. My terror made my legs shaky. I could barely walk. And then I felt a hard tug in my hair. Another tug. Loud flapping right on my head. A shrill whistling hiss, so close it could have been coming from me. I screamed. I screamed again. "It's caught in my hair!" I cried, falling to my knees. Keeping track of all the things that they didn't have budget for in the episode version that we covered in a video a while back. Another shrill hiss, another tug of my hair. I swung my hands to hit it. I felt a warm body. I felt the brush of fluttering wings. "Don't hit him! Be careful with the bats!" I shoved it hard. I shoved it from my hair. "Ah, help!" I cried. The flapping wings and shrill whistle surrounded me. I could hear Luke and Clay shouting, but they seemed far, far away. Another one brushed my cheek. Another one bumped my shoulder. The shadows darted back and forth. The barn was alive with flying, chattering. It sounded like I said chattering, which sounds cheesy and delicious. Bats. "Oh, help! Help us, please!" Another one brushed my face. I felt a rush of air beating wings on the top of my head. "Help us! Help us!" But there was no one around to help. I might grab a drink in just a second. Unleash the chattering. They're alive! bad bat stereotype. Don't be mean to the bats. Let's see. Bats are adorable. Hello, everybody. I'm gonna go run and grab some water because I'm almost out of my tea. If you guys could do me a favor, if you haven't already liked the stream, if you could like it, that would be very helpful. Irritated bat noises. I will leave you guys on chair stream for just a moment. Here is Dragon Bean to take my hosting job, fill in for me interim while I'm gone getting water. So I will be right back. Okay, now I'll be right back. Good night, Chris. Alright, I'm back. Oh, was my phone going off? Sorry. Chat. Good times. Love that. Making sure that nothing is on fire, otherwise. You know. Oh my goodness. What's happening? Anything important? Nothing. Looks like it's just regular stuff. I'll worry about it later. Unrelated string of letters. Alright. Let's get into the rest of this book. Oh no, I'm sorry. Interviewing people and writing a story about it. Oh. I'm glad you're there to you know, report on it. That sounds really scary. Alright, chapter 15. I covered my eyes with one hand and thrashed out wildly with the other hand, trying to beat the bats away. Choking and sobbing, I could barely breathe. I heard Luke calling far, far away. He seemed to be behind a curtain of flapping, chattering bats. And then, suddenly, sunlight invaded the barn. On my knees, I lowered my hands from my eyes. I saw that the barn door had slid open. Luke, standing at the door, his mouth open in shock, turned back. Hi, Perry. Come on. Come on up here. You can say hi. Come on. There you go. Alright. Yes, it's One Day at Horrorland. Is that one of your favorite ones? Alright. Luke, standing at the door, his mouth open in shock, turned back to Clay and me. I touched the door and it opened, he explained. Clay's glasses were hanging off one ear. His blonde hair was totally messed up. His eyes darted around the barn. Where are the bats? He cried. I raised my eyes to the rafters. Hey! I cried out. No bats. No sign of any bats anywhere. I climbed to my feet, pulling my hair back with both hands. Let's get out of here, I cried. Clay and I followed Luke out of the barn. The warm sunshine felt good. Perry, no table. No table. You're gonna unplug things. You're gonna make a mess. Everybody's very happy to see you, though. No one died. That's good. I'm glad that everyone was okay afterwards. That's still very scary. Perry? I know, Perry. I know. But you can't go on the table. Okay. Where was I? Let's get out of here, I cried. Clay and I followed Luke out of the barn. The warm sunshine felt so good. I was still itchy from the bats. I rubbed my shoulders and the back of my neck. I hate bats. I really do, I exclaimed with a shudder. But there weren't any bats, Luke said, grinning at me. It was all a fake. Huh? It was not, Clay cried angrily. Those were bats. I could hear them and feel them. All special effects, Luke claimed. It wasn't special effects when one got tangled in my hair, I cried. Just thinking about it gave me cold shivers. Special effects, Luke repeated. Really excellent special effects. I was almost scared, too. Almost, I cried. I walked over, grabbed him, and pretended to wring his neck. Almost. I heard you screaming your head off, Luke. Hi, Perry. Yes, I know. Perry. You cannot get up on the table because you're going to want to be on the computer. Ow! He pulled out of my grasp, laughing. I knew it wasn't real. I was just screaming like that to scare you. What a liar. I really didn't believe my brother. He was scared. He was plenty scared. I knew he was. There were bats, not special effects, I insisted angrily. Then where did they go when the door opened? Luke demanded. As soon as the door opened, the bats all vanished. Do you guys see the cat foot? The hand? Sky jail. The arm. Let's stop talking about it, Clay pleaded. Perry. Honey. Let's find your parents, okay? Yeah, okay. Let her on the table. She can't get on the table because if she gets on the table, she's going to try to get on the computer, and if she gets on the computer, she's going to turn everything off. Yeah, okay, I agreed, glaring at Luke. You really are nuts, you know that, I told him. He stuck his tongue out at me. I wanted to punch his lights out, but I try to be a non-violent person, so I just gave him one hard punch on the shoulder. That's not how being non-violent works. He howled in protest. You're stupid, Lizzie. You're really stupid, he muttered. And you're afraid of pretend bats. I ignored him and led the way down the path toward the front gate. Two people in horror costumes appeared on the path going the other way, chatting enthusiastically. Oh, sorry. Hang on. My nose is really itchy. Yes, Perry. Yes, you can get down. If Perry isn't allowed to break anything, she doesn't like hanging out as much. She can't get up there, she'll have too much power. I ignored him and led the way down the path toward the front gate. Two people in horror costumes appeared on the path going the other way, chatting enthusiastically. Is this the way to the front gate? I called to them. They ignored my question and walked right past us. Hey, I called to them. But they both kept... Now I feel like I have Perry fur in my nose. They both kept jabbering away, and they didn't even seem to see or hear me. The sun beamed down on us, and the air had become hot and still with no breeze at all. I wiped sweat off my forehead with one hand. I could still smell the sour aroma of the bat barn. The odor was on my hands and on my clothes. I saw 4 teenagers in bathing suits, 2 boys and 2 girls, hurrying over the grass toward a large brown pond. A sign came into view near the shore. It read, Alligator Pond. Feel free to swim here. Luke laughed. Are those guys crazy? We stopped to watch them step into the water. Do you think there are really alligators in there? Clay asked, biting his lower lip. I shrugged. Who knows? I don't know what to think about this park. We continued along the path. A few minutes later, I recognized the mountain-shaped structure of the Doom Slide. The wide circular plaza came into view. It was nearly deserted. Even the ice cream selling horror had vanished from his cart. Where do you suppose Mom and Dad are? I asked. They've probably been looking for us for hours, and now they're really mad, Luke said, frowning. Where are they? Clay cried. He was starting to sound really stressed out. We've got to find them. Is that them? Luke asked. He was pointing to a man and a woman in the shade of a large stone fountain. I shielded my eyes from the sun with one hand. The woman was tall with dark hair. The man was short and blonde. Yes, that's them, I cried happily. I started running to the fountain, calling to them. Mom, Dad. The boys came running after me. Mom, Dad, hey, I shouted happily. They both turned around, surprised expressions on their faces. Oh, I cried when I saw it wasn't them and stopped short. Luke bumped right into me. Sorry, I told the confused couple. We thought you were someone else. The three of us hurried across the plaza. I could hear the wail of wolf howls from the werewolf village. The ice cream cart stood lonely and deserted near the entrance to the doom slide. Where are they? Clay asked, whining. I'm starting to get hungry. Yeah, it's way past lunchtime, I agreed. They could be anywhere, Luke said unhappily, kicking a pebble across the pavement. They could be anywhere in this giant park. I sighed. Let's look for them in the shade. The sun is really getting hot. We headed toward the shade of the Doomslide building. Suddenly, two green-costumed horrors came into view. Their big yellow eyes bulged in front of their heads. Without thinking, I went running up to them. Have you seen our parents? I asked breathlessly. They stared at me in surprise. Your parents? One of them repeated. Yeah, I nodded. My mom has black hair, and my dad is kind of short and he has blonde hair. The two horrors glanced at each other. Mom was wearing a bright yellow sundress, I told them, and Dad had a Chicago Cubs hat on his head, Luke added. Oh yeah, right, one of the horrors, a woman, replied. You saw them? I asked eagerly. She nodded. Yeah, I remember them. They left. They left about an half hour ago. Huh? I gaped at her in disbelief. They asked me to give you a message, the horror said. Message? What message? I asked. Goodbye, the horror replied. Okay. Imagine rooting for the Cubs. Ah. Alligator Pond does not sound like something that's going to end well. YouTube channel stream chats have is beautiful. Oh, it's so chaos. Cat Sunny's watching the stream with me. Oh, so cute, Hannah. Child abandonment to the list. I'm sure the parents haven't actually left, but, I mean, you know, they are parents in a Goosebumps novel, so not a great track record. But even for this, it would be harsh. You're wrong, I cried. They wouldn't leave. About half an hour ago, the horror repeated. She shrugged her shoulders under the bulky monster costume. I was at the gate when they left. But, I spluttered. The two horrors turned and began walking toward a small white shed at the edge of the plaza. Hey, wait, I called, chasing after them. You made a mistake. Our parents wouldn't leave without us. They disappeared into the shed. The door slammed behind them. I turned back to Luke and Clay. They stared at me blankly. She was wrong, I told them. Mom and Dad are still here. I know it. Then why did she say? Clay started, but the voice broke. I could see that he was very worried and upset. Beads of sweat ran down his pink forehead. Luke tried to make a joke. I guess that means we have the whole park to ourselves, he exclaimed, forcing a smile. Very funny, I replied sarcastically. We have no money, and we're about 300 miles from home. We could call somebody, Luke suggested. No phones, Clay muttered. He lowered his head, shoved his hands into the pockets of his shorts, and turned away from us. Oh, right, Luke remembered. They told Dad there are no phones in the park. That's crazy, I said heatedly. They're liars. The horrors are all liars. Though, I guess that's their job, Luke said, telling us lies to scare us to death. That's what they call it, Horrorland. They should call it Dumbland, Clay muttered bitterly. Got him. But it's so cool, Luke protested. I love being scared out of my wits, don't you? He gave Clay a hard shove. No, Clay replied softly. He made an attempt to shove Luke back. Well, she was lying about Mom and Dad, I insisted, gazing at the white shed. She was just trying to scare us. Mom and Dad are still here. We just have to find them. Come on, let's go, Luke urged. I hope to find them soon. I'm getting really hungry. We wandered through the park for what seemed like hours. We searched through dark, mysterious woods and strange monster villages. We passed through a carnival area with dozens of scary-looking rides. On the other side of a vampire village, we passed a building marked Monster Zoo. It was closed, but we could hear the most terrifying grunts, howls, and moans coming from inside. A long, yellow building had a sign outside that proclaimed, Guillotine Museum. Please hold on to your head. Luke wanted to go inside, but Clay and I talked him out of it. Horrorland was surprisingly empty. We passed several horrors scurrying around the paths in their bright green costumes, and we saw a few families wandering around, always with crying kids. The rides in the carnival area were all running empty. All of the food stands and restaurants were empty, too. We walked clear across the other end of the park. I was feeling more and more worried. Why hadn't we run into Mom and Dad? Surely we should have seen them by now. Clay had been very quiet. I could tell he was really scared. Even Luke trudged along with his shoulders slumped and his head down. By the time we found ourselves back at the alligator pond, I was feeling pretty bad. I crossed the grassy shore and walked up to the edge of the brown water. What do you think happened to those teenagers who went swimming here? Luke asked, staring across the pond. Think the alligators ate them? Maybe, I replied. I wasn't really listening to him. I was thinking about Mom and Dad. Hey, look, Clay cried, pointing to the water. I saw 2 long greenish-brown logs floating toward us on top of the water. It took me a while to realize that the logs were alligators. Big ones, Clay declared in a hushed voice. Better step back, I warned them. All 3 of us, she's so dead inside, she's like, better step back so that they don't eat you as easily. All 3 of us were standing on the water's edge. The alligators floated silently just below the surface of the still water, hardly creating a ripple. Mom and Dad didn't leave without us, I repeated for the 1,000th time. But we searched everywhere, Luke said quietly. They didn't leave without us, I said. They would never leave without us. So, I hesitated. I was thinking hard, and my thoughts were all frightening. So, Clay said eagerly, so if they're not in the park, I continued, it means something happened to them. Something bad happened to them. Clay gasped. Luke narrowed his blue eyes at me. What do you mean, Lizzie? He asked. I mean, maybe the place really is evil. I said, and maybe the horrors or somebody did something bad to Mom and Dad. I stared down at the brown alligator backs gliding so smoothly, so effortlessly toward us. That's crazy, Luke muttered. I knew it was crazy, but I had no other explanation. I have such a bad feeling about this park, I told them, a real bad feeling. And as I said that, I felt strong hands grab me from behind and push me into the alligator pond. Great. Oh, I love Distractable. That's Markiplier and Company's podcast. Mark, Bob, and Wade. It's a really, really good podcast. Very funny. The one about the refrigerator delivery is my favorite episode. Desensitized to it all. Almost been in a theme park. You'll find my parents would raise my anxiety really high. Oh yeah, even to this day. Being scared out of your wits might evolve into trauma. Yep. The teens became lunch. Probably got kidnapped. A podcast where YouTube talks about stuff. It's a good podcast. I like it a lot. This is not how you install a refrigerator. Alright, chapter 17. Here we go. Thank you for the 30 likes, guys. That really helps us. Oh, and it is Monday, so don't forget, Pop Culture Curiosity's new episode today. I posted it live, like, just before I got on here. I love the one where Mark is describing the dumbass idea to book their beds without help. I love that one too. Also, when Mark mentioned the SpongeBob news anchor fish. And the one, what's the other one that I love? They're all good. The one where Mark tells the story about being a teenager and sneaking out to see the Harry Potter midnight premiere with that girl that he liked. The whole story. So yes, after the stream, if you still want content, since we're nearing the end of this book, I recommend going over and listening to the nearly 2-hour podcast episode, since it is Monday, and Mondays mean pop culture curiosities. Keys to the Kingdom. Oh, I forgot about Keys to the Kingdom. I know I read at least the first one of that series. Yeah, Bob's Fridge. Catch the new pod episode when I'm feeling like garbage. Really? Oh, I'm sorry, Paulo. Okay, chapter 17. I screamed. Then I realized I wasn't being tossed into the water. The hands were holding onto my shoulders. I spun around. Dad, I cried. Lizzie, he exclaimed, still holding onto me. Where have you guys been? We've searched the entire park 12 times, Mom declared. She was standing behind us in the grass, hands pressed tensely on her waist. We were looking for you, I cried. They told us you left, Luke said. We were kind of scared, Clay added. We all started talking at once. I was so happy to see them, and I could see that Luke and Clay were really happy too. I had imagined all sorts of terrible things happening to Mom and Dad. It wasn't like me to let my imagination run away with me like that. But Horrorland was such a scary place. It was impossible not to have scary thoughts here. I want to go home, I said. Did you find a phone? Clay asked. Did you find a car? Dad shook his head. No phones. The guy in the monster costume didn't lie. There are no phones in the park. But the horrors were very nice to us, Mom broke in. They told us not to worry about a thing. They said just to come to the ticket booth when we were ready to leave, Dad reported. Mom ran a hand tenderly through Luke's hair. Did you go on any rides or anything? We did a lot of scary stuff, Luke told her. Very scary, Clay added. I'm really hungry, Luke said. Dad glanced at his watch. It's way past lunchtime. I think we're all hungry. The restaurants and food stands are all on the other side of the park, Mom said. Can we just eat lunch and then leave? I asked eagerly. I still had a bad feeling about the place. I wanted to get away from Horrorland, far away. Your mom and I have spent all our time searching for you, Dad said, wiping sweat off his sunburnt forehead with one hand. We haven't had any fun at all. We should all at least go on one ride together before we leave, Mom said. I just want to go, I urged. I really do. Lizzie, that's not like you, Mom scolded. You didn't even want to come here, Mom. The Pirates at the Gas Station is another great episode. Shout out Distractable. We've just been, we've just delved into talking about how great Distractable podcast is. She's scared, Luke told them. She's a chicken. Maybe there's a ride that will take us to the front of the park, Dad suggested. We could all take it. Then have some lunch and leave. That sounds good, Mom said. She stared at me. Okay with you? I guess, I told her, sighing. It's just, the rides here are all too scary. They aren't any fun. Luke laughed. They're too scary for Lizzie, but not for Clay and me, he said. Right, Clay? I was a little scared of the bat barn, Clay confessed. We headed away from the alligator pond across the grassy shore to the paved walkway. A couple of costumed horrors walked past, chatting in low voices. A girl's high-pitched shriek of terror floated in through the air from somewhere in the distance, the same frightening cry repeated over and over. Wolf howls rose up in front of us, and from a speaker hidden somewhere in the trees, I heard evil laughter, a hideous cackle that repeated over and over. It's like being in a horror movie, Mom commented. Very clever, Dad added, walking with a hand on my shoulder. It's strange that we never heard of this park. They should put some ads on TV, Mom said. Then they'd get more people to come here. We passed by a tall, narrow green building with a sign in front that read "Free Fall, the only bungee jump without a cord." "Want to try that?" Dad asked, squeezing my shoulder and grinning at me. "I don't think so," I quickly replied. Luke was way ahead of us. He turned around and walked backwards, wanting for us to catch up. "Mom and Dad should try the Doom Slide," he said, grinning. "It's awesome." He had really forgotten how terrified he was. "I don't think they'd like it," I said quietly. "Maybe we could find something that's just a little scary," Clay suggested. Dad laughed. "Are you having a good time, Clay?" Clay hesitated. "A little," he replied finally. "I'm having a great time," Luke declared. The path curved along a narrow brown river. Millions of tiny white insects flitted over the surface of the water, catching the bright sunlight. They looked like little sparkling diamonds. A small brown boathouse came into view. Behind it, I could see slender canoes bobbing beneath the wooden dock. Hi, Vanessa. Glad you're feeling better today. The sign behind the boathouse read, "Coffin Cruise, a relaxing float to the grave." "This might be fun," Mom said, her eyes on the small boats. "I think the river flows toward the front of the park," Dad said. "Let's take it." Luke cheered and went running to the dock. I lingered behind the others. When I finally stepped out onto the dock, it took me a while to realize that the objects bobbing in the brown water weren't canoes, they were coffins. They were made of black polished wood. The lids were pulled back, revealing red satin interiors. Each coffin was big enough for one person. I felt a cold chill run down my back. "We're really going to climb into coffins?" I asked. "They look comfy," Mom said, smiling at me. "The water is flat and gentle, Lizzie. It won't be a scary ride." "Me first," Luke cried, running into the end of the wooden dock. Two costumed horrors appeared to help us into the coffins. "Lie back, enjoy the ride," one of them said. "It will be your last," the other horror added with a low chuckle. When we were all inside coffins, the horrors untied them and gave us a hard push away from the docks. Here I am, I thought, lying in my coffin. Here we all are, my entire family, on our backs in our coffins. The coffin floated gently, bobbing in the water. I stared up at the bright blue sky. Trees shimmered on both banks as I floated past. It was so pretty and so relaxing. Why did I think something terrible was about to happen? Oh, hell no. Hannah and I are always on the same page. It's like, nope. Mm-mm. Imagine the sentence ended with my... Yeah, don't put me in a coffin until I am dead. I'm not voluntarily putting my own ass in a coffin for anything. Alright. Let's see. Lying on my back, I couldn't see the others over the coffin sides, but I could hear the splash of their coffins around mine. "This is nice," Mom said. "Very relaxing. Very relaxing to sit in a coffin by myself and ponder my mortal existence. I want a natural burial. I don't need a fancy box with let the worms eat me. Stories where people aren't fully dead and put into coffins." Ugh, I know. I hate those stories. I'm pretty sure Beyond Belief had at least one of those back in the day. Although I could have been thinking of urban legends. "It's boring," Luke declared from up ahead of me. "Where's the scary part?" "It's just a nice ride in a coffin," Dad said. "Do you think we're really floating, or do you think the coffin is on some kind of track?" "I could float like this for hours," Mom said. "The rides here are pretty long," Clay told her. "Is that a hawk up in the sky?" Dad asked. "Can everyone see it?" Shielding my eyes from the sun with one hand, I searched the sky directly above... So, wait. There's no top on the okay, I have questions. Shielding my eyes from the sun with one hand, I searched the sky. Directly above, a dark shadow hovered high in the sky, a little bigger than a dot. "It's not a hawk. I'll bet it's a vulture," Luke declared. "It sees the coffins, and it's waiting to eat our flesh." He laughed. "Great. You're so upbeat, Luke." "Luke, where do you get these hideous ideas?" Mom demanded. "Maybe Luke should live in Horrorland," Dad exclaimed. We could get him out of those green monster we could get him one of those green monster costumes and he'd fit in perfectly." "He doesn't need a costume," I joked. I was starting to feel a little better. The ride was gentle and relaxing, and I figured nothing terrible could happen with my whole family around. I settled back on the coffin bottom, my hands resting at my sides, and stared up dreamily at the birds circling high in the clear sky. The coffin bobbed gently, making soft splashing sounds, so pleasant, so quiet, and then before I could utter a sound, the coffin lid slammed shut over me, and I was trapped in total darkness. Fun! Oh god, not the alligator pond. Give Luke some fucking therapy. Both these kids already need therapy, and that's pre-Horrorland, so I can't even imagine what a post-Horrorland child would do. Well, I mean, you could also be cremated. This is a weird way that the chat topic has gone, but there's also cremation, so if you didn't want to be eaten or be put in a coffin, there's that. Give all the kids therapy. Yep. Every time I read one of these, I just picture the kids in each one of them, like the protagonist joining all the other kid protagonists in like a big like support group. They'd meet the Monster Blood kids and be like, "What happened to you?" "Oh, a ball of slime came to life." Wow. That's so valid. The audio is cutting out. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. I'm getting levels that seem pretty consistent. Let's see. Sorry, Paulo. We'll go to a lighter topic. Kids from Horror Books Series and support group. Audio works great. Okay. My end. Okay. Just checking to make sure there's nothing I can do to fix it. Okay. Getting there. Almost done. "Hey!" I shouted. My voice was muffled by the heavy lid over me. I could hear the dull thud of the other coffin lid slamming shut. "Hey, let me out!" I pushed against the lid with both hands, but it wouldn't budge. I took a deep breath and tried again. This time I pushed with my hands and my feet. Heavy lid still didn't move. My heart was pounding so hard I thought my chest would explode. The air inside the closed coffin was already getting hot and stuffy. "Open up! Open up!" I screamed. I tried pushing the lid again. I could hear Clay's muffled cries in the coffin next to mine. The poor guy was screaming his head off. I let out a loud groan as I pushed up with all my strength. The lid wouldn't give an inch. "Calm down, Lizzie. Calm down," I instructed myself. "It's just a stupid ride. The coffin lid will open any second." Breathing hard, I waited. I counted to 10. I counted to 10 again. The lid didn't snap open. I tried shutting my eyes and counting to 50. When I reached 50, I told myself I'll open my eyes and the lid will be open. 22, 23, 24. I counted out loud. My voice sounded tiny and choked. It was getting hard to breathe, and air began to feel really stale. I stopped counting at 25 and opened my eyes. The lid hadn't popped open. "It's so hot in here," I thought. "The sun beating down on the lid, there's no air, and I'm going to fry." I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I gasped for air. Outside, I could hear muffled shouts and cries. Was that my mother screaming like that? "It's just a ride," I said out loud. "Just a stupid ride. The lid is going to pop now." But it didn't. The air was so hot and stale. Why didn't the lid open? Why? I tried to force back my panic, but I couldn't. My entire body was shaking and shivering. I felt cold perspiration drip down my forehead. Something has gone wrong, I cried out loud. The lid is supposed to open, but it doesn't. Frantically, I pushed up with both hands. My arms ached from pushing so hard, but the lid didn't move. The coffin bobbled and rocked in the water. I lowered my hands into defeat. I sucked in a mouthful of hot, stale air. My chest was heaving. My body trembled. And then I felt my legs start to itch. A tingly feeling down near my ankles, moving up my legs. An itchy, crawling feeling. Something was crawling slowly up my legs. Something small and prickly. Oh, I let out a low, terrified groan. Spiders. Ew. R.L. Stein, why? Why have you done this? Oh, hell no. Oh, God, no. No, 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 no. I read a lot of literature recently where I associate Coffin with, like, flirting through me. R.L. Stein is paying for my therapy. I demand reparations for this trauma. I love how even as adults we're all like, oh, hell no. Alright. Is this a good time to point out that I haven't posted any, but I recorded a like a softly spoken ASMR reading of Beauty and the Beast for a potential side channel called Avery Whispers About Stuff. Maybe it'll undo some of the damage. Anyway, chapter 20. We're almost there. 30 pages left. Like, there's a coffin scene in 3 different unrelated works I've read where the couples have fun in a coffin. Interesting. Very interesting. Not radioactive spiders. I think they're just regular spiders, and that's enough. I don't need them to be any more than that. Chapter 20. I tried to scratch my legs, but my arms weren't long enough. Unable to move or bend in a cramped coffin, I couldn't reach down to them. The tingling moved higher. I wanted to scream, but I started to cough, and then the coffin lid popped open. Bright sunlight made me shut my eyes. Oh, I pulled myself up to a sitting position. Blinking against the light, I saw the others already scrambling up out of the coffins. I scratched my legs furiously. To my surprise, there were no spiders. No bugs of any kind. The coffin had pulled up to a small dock. I braced both hands against the side of the coffin and heaved myself to my feet. Let's get out of here, I heard Clay cry. That was horrible, my mom shrieked. Luke didn't say anything. His face was pale and his black hair was matted to his forehead with sweat. They really went too far, Dad said angrily. I'm going to complain. Let's just go, Mom told him. We all scrambled onto the deck. I helped pull Clay up. Then I took several deep breaths of fresh air. Dad ran off the dock toward the open plaza, and the rest of us hurried after him. To the ticket booth, he called back to us. Right up there, he pointed. The coffin ride had taken us to the front of the park. I could see the front gate and the row of green ticket booths to the right. The ride was really gross, Clay said, shaking his head. My legs are all itchy. I thought it was ants, Luke declared. I thought it was spiders, I told him. I wonder how they did that, Luke said thoughtfully. I don't care, I replied. I just want to get out of here. I hate this place. So do I, Clay agreed. They just go too far, Mom said breathlessly, jogging to keep up with us. As we followed Dad, it isn't any fun when a ride is that scary. I really had trouble breathing. Yeah, that's a crime. You can't do that. It's almost like going into a coffin was a bad idea, you fucking dumbasses, right? Who knew coffins made poor river rides? Oh, wait, literally anyone with a brain, right? I tried to that's where I already was. So did I told her. Hey, how did we get home, Luke? How do we get home? Luke suddenly demanded, staring at Mom. Our car blew up. I think those people in the monster costumes will lend us a car, Mom replied. They told your father just to come to the ticket booth. Can we stop? Lend a car? Can we stop and get pizza? Luke asked. Let's get out of this place and then worry about lunch, Mom told him. The main plaza was totally empty, not another living person. We followed Dad to the first ticket booth. He turned back to us, making a disappointed face. Closed, he said. A metal gate had been pulled over the window. Dad was breathing hard from running all the way. He pushed his blonde hair off his sweaty forehead with both hands. Over here, he said. We followed him to the next ticket booth, also closed. Then the next, closed. It didn't take us long to discover that all the ticket booths were closed. Weird, Luke said, shaking his head. Don't they expect any more visitors today? Mom asked Dad. How can they just close up like that? Dad shrugged. We'll have to ask someone. His eyes searched the empty grounds. I turned and checked out the plaza along with him. Still no one in sight. No visitors, no horrors. Let's try over there, Dad said. He started walking to a low, green building that stood beyond the ticket booths. It looked like some kind of office. It was closed, too. Dad tried the door. It was locked. Dad scratched his head. What's going on here? Where'd everyone disappear to? He demanded. Mom took his arm. It's very strange, she said softly. I glanced at Luke and Clay. They were standing tensely side by side on the walk in front of the office. Neither of them spoke. Are you sure these are the right ticket booths? I asked. Yes, Dad replied wearily. This is the front entrance. So where can everyone be? Mom asked, chewing her lower lip. Maybe we can find someone in the parking lot, I suggested. You know, a parking attendant or something. They'll be able to tell us how to get a car to go home. Good idea, Lizzie, Dad said. He patted the top of my head the way he used to when I was a little girl. I waited for Luke to make fun of me, but he didn't say a word. I guess he was too worried and upset. Come on, I urged, and turned and ran past the empty ticket booths. The tall metal front gate to Horrorland stood just beyond the booths. I stopped for a second to read a sign on the side of the ticket booths. It said, no exit, no one leaves Horrorland alive. Ha ha, I said sarcastically. These signs are a riot, aren't they? I jogged the rest of the way and reached the gate first. I pulled it and it wouldn't open, so I tried pushing it. It didn't move. Then I saw the heavy chains and a large steel padlock on the gate. Swallowing hard, I turned back to the others. We're locked in, I told them. This is actually giving me, like, I'm feeling anxious. Baby, you okay? You hardly touched her. Critical thinking skills, yes. Interesting, Ellery. Thank you for putting the plus 18 disclaimer. Yeah, I'm not even very claustrophobic, but just reading about the coffin ride thing made me upset, Austin. I will say it again. R.L. Stein's son claims that he's never read one of these, so I would like to know for science if he's less traumatized than the rest of us. We need to use him as like a baseline. What? Dad stared at me, his face twisted in confusion. I don't think he believed me. The dad's like, We're locked in, I repeated. I lifted the heavy metal padlock with both hands and then let it fall back with a loud clang against the bars of the gate. But that's impossible, Mom cried, raising her hands to her cheeks. They can't lock people inside an amusement park. Maybe it's another joke, Luke suggested. Everything in this place turns out to be a joke. Maybe this is one, too. I lifted the heavy padlock again. It doesn't look like a joke, Luke, I said unhappily. Then there must be another gate where they want us to exit, Mom suggested. Maybe, Dad said doubtfully. Maybe there's a side exit, but I haven't seen one. What are we going to do? Clay asked, whining. His face was red, and he was breathing hard. Where is everyone? Luke demanded, whining too. They've got to let us leave. They've got to. Excuse me. Very close to the end, especially considering that the last couple chapters in here are chapters for the next book preview. Excuse me. Thank you, Hannah. Really white suburban people, because no one thought of it. Christ almighty. They're just, these people are very Caucasian in everything they do. They have no common sense whatsoever. Like, they're like, oh, let's go in the coffin. Oh, no, they've locked us in. Like, we can't possibly, like, get up or around this gate. Like... Oh, there's no phones. Let's leave it. Let our kids just run around. I'm sorry, Paulo. I hope you feel better. Yeah, zero survival instincts. They're incredibly stereotypically Caucasian. Yeah, I'd be like vaulting over the fence. I'd be like, okay, you're not gonna let me walk out of the gate? Then my ass is going over the gate. Like, that just feels, you know, like the next plausible step. I don't know. I'm just wondering if this book ends the way that the episode ends. I'm so curious. We don't have that much more. And nothing can go wrong. Oh no, it all went wrong. I'll risk potential injury from the gate. Lord knows they probably electrified it. Yeah. They might have, but my ass is gonna find out the hard way. Let's see, where are we? Where was I? Let's try to stay calm, Dad said, putting a hand on Luke's shoulder. There's no reason to panic. This is a strange place, but we're not in any danger. He's right, Mom broke in. There's no reason to be afraid. We'll be out here and on our way home in no time. She forced a smile. As soon as we get out, I'll buy you guys pizzas and big cold drinks, Dad promised, and we'll all have a good laugh about our terrifying adventures today in Horrorland. But how do we get out? Luke demanded shrilly. Well, Dad rubbed his chin. Do you think we could climb the fence? There you go! Woo! Someone has brain cells! Yay! Lizzie has brain cells! We all raised our eyes to the top of the iron fence. It was way over our heads. It must have been about 20 feet tall. I can't climb that, Clay cried. I'd fall. It's too high, Mom said quickly. Bad idea, I murmured. A large white cloud drifted over the sun. Our shadows grew longer over the pavement. The air quickly grew cooler. I felt a chill run down my back. There's got to be a way out of this stupid park. I cried angrily. I hoisted up the padlock and slammed it again against the bars of the gate. Hold on, Lizzie, Dad said soothingly. We'll just have to find one of those costumed park workers. They'll tell us how to get out. Dad? I turned around and saw Luke grab Dad's arm. Here they come. We all uttered astonished cries as we saw the horrors crossing the plaza. Dozens of them moved quickly with a steady rhythm, silently. A few seconds before, the plaza had been empty. Now it was filled with green costumed horrors marching toward us, spreading out, preparing to surround us. I could feel the panic rise up from my stomach. My knees began to shake. I stared in horror at them as they drew closer, closer. I couldn't speak. I couldn't move. What are they going to do? Clay cried, his features twisted in terror. He slipped behind Dad. What are they going to do to us? He cried. Give us directions? What a bunch of little bitches. Yeah, like we said, very stereotypically white. Stay in that park. They caught up to us finally. Yay, finally. What a bunch of little bitches. They didn't even try. Bruh. Like, oh no, I can't. I might break a nail. Alright. We huddled together as the horrors marched silently toward us. The only sound was the soft thud of their monster feet on the pavement and their long purple tails dragging on the ground. There are hundreds of them, Mom murmured. She grabbed Dad's arm with one hand and slipped her other arm around my shoulders and pulled me closer. We had our backs against the iron fence. We stared helplessly at the grinning green faces, the bulging yellow eyes, which appeared to be laughing cruelly at us. Finally, they stopped a few feet from us. The plaza was still and silent, terrifyingly silent. The sun was still hidden behind the big cloud. Two large blackbirds swooped low in the grassy sky, the gray sky. We stared at the horrors as they stared back at us. I swallowed hard, leaning against my mother. I could feel her entire body trembling. I took a deep breath and then cried out, "What do you want?" The sound of my own voice startled me. One of the horrors, a young woman, stepped forward. Frightened, I tried to back up, but my back was already pressed against the fence. "What do you want?" I repeated in a trembling voice. The costumed horror stared at us one by one. "I want to thank you," she said in a cheery voice. "Huh?" I uttered. "I'm the Horrorland MC. We all want to thank you for being our guest today." She flashed us a warm smile. "It's a monster cult, which would be a great name for a band, but still." "You mean we can go?" Luke demanded, half hidden behind my dad. "Of course," the horror said, grinning warmly. "But first, we all want to thank you for appearing on Horrorland Hidden Camera." The dozens of horrors behind her broke into applause and loud cheers. "Huh? You mean this is some kind of show?" Dad demanded, frowning. "See the cameras?" the MC asked. She gestured up to two tall poles in the plaza. Raising my eyes to the top, I saw two TV cameras. "You mean we're on TV?" Luke cried. "Since the moment you arrived," the MC replied. "Our hidden cameras followed you everywhere. From the hilarious scene where we blew up your car, our cameras were with you. And I know our home audience loved the terrified expressions on your faces and all of your horrified screams as you took our Horrorland rides. It's scare tactics. They're on scare tactics. That's not legal." Bruh. Bro, what? That's what we should name the non-cult. The monster cult? I don't think it needs a name. Does it need a name? Alright, where was I? "Now, wait a minute," Dad said angrily. He took a step forward. His hands were balled into tense fists at his sides. "You say this is a TV show. How come I've never seen it? We're seen every weekend on the Monster Channel," the horror replied. "Oh," Dad replied quickly, lowering his eyes. "We don't have cable." "You should get it," the horror told him. "You're missing a lot of great scary shows on the Monster Channel." The horrors all clapped and cheered. "Well, you've been very good sports," the MC continued, her yellow eyes bouncing in front of her head as she talked. We've enjoyed having you, and to show our appreciation, we have a brand new car waiting for you in the parking lot. More cheers and applause from the horrors. A new car? That's excellent, Luke exclaimed. That's Luke's favorite word, apparently. Does that mean we can leave? Clay asked timidly. The horror nodded. Yes, it's time for you to leave. The real exit is right over there, through that doorway. She pointed to a tall green building near the end of the fence. I saw a yellow door on the side. Take the yellow door, the horror instructed. And thanks again for appearing on Horrorland Hidden Camera. As all the horrors clapped their big green hands, we stepped away from the fence and hurried toward the exit. I can't believe we were on TV the whole time, Mom declared. And we're getting a new car, Luke exclaimed happily. He started jumping up and down, then he leapt onto Clay's back, nearly knocking him over. I laughed. It was good to see the old Luke back with us. We've got to get cable, Luke told Dad. I want to see the Monster Channel. It's gotta be awesome. We'll have to order it so we can see ourselves, Mom said. If the Monster Channel was real, it sounds like something I would talk about a lot on this channel. You know what I mean? I thought the non-cult was the name of the non-cult. Nobody still has cable. Yeah, cable has come and gone. Yeah, monsters are not super concerned about human legality, I don't think. I also love that these dumbasses think that they're just getting free stuff, you know? Oh, you wish the book was over, Tara. It's not. We got a few more chapters. I reached the yellow door first and pulled it open. I stepped into an enormous room with white walls that shone under the bright white lights from the ceiling. Is this the exit? I cried. As soon as we were all inside, the door slammed shut with a bang that made my heart skip. Then all the lights went out. Welcome to the Horrorland Challenge, boomed a deep, frightening voice over a loudspeaker. Huh? I gazed blindly around trying to see anything in the total darkness. You have 1 minute to go through the monster obstacle course, the voice thundered. Please keep in mind that games are now over. This is real. You're playing for your life. As I learned from Star Wars, it's a trap! There's a reason why they say some things are too good to be true. Yeah, Natty's right. Everything about this family just gives, like, stereotypical suburban white dumbass family. With, like, no critical thinking skills whatsoever. We've been tricked, I heard Dad cry angrily, and then he shouted at the top of his lungs, Let's get out of here! Run! The deep voice boomed over the loudspeaker. You have 56 seconds. Dad started to shout again, but we stopped when a dim light came up and a disgusting four-armed creature stepped toward us. Oh, I cried without even realizing it. The size of a gorilla, the monster had huge green eyes surrounded by thick red fur over its face. Saliva drooled from its mouth, and as it opened its jaws wider, 2 rows of long fangs slid over its thin purple lips. Just don't stand there. Run. This is an obstacle course, the voice boomed impatiently. You have 50 seconds to live. At least make a good race of it. I picture the voice being very chipper. The monster uttered a low growl and lumbered towards the dim light. Its jaws were open. Its jaws were opened wide as if preparing to bite. Its four enormous clawed hands swiped at the air in front of it. I was too stunned to move, too frightened to run. The woman was too stunned to speak. But suddenly I felt a hand grab mine and tug me hard. It was Dad, I realized, trying to pull me to safety. I heard the boy screaming in fear. I felt Mom brush beside me as we started stumbling forward. Run! Run! A deep voice urged over the shrieks of the two boys. I couldn't see where I was running. The light was so dim, so shadowy, I only saw a blur now. A blur of running feet, of moving shadows. The monster let out a deafening roar. I covered my ears and kept running. Its four clawed hands swiped at Dad, missed. We hurtled past it, only to face two giant birds at least 10 feet tall. They looked like cranes. They squawked and flapped their enormous wings. It sounded like canvas tents flapping in a strong wind. Oh, help! Was that me shrieking like that? Was I really being wrapped in their hot, flapping wings? Smothered? Choked? No, please. How did I break away? Was I being chased now by 6 growling, pig-like creatures with sharp, pointed teeth curling from their twisted mouths? The screams and terrified shrieks of my family rose over the beating birds' wings, the monstrous growls and grunts. I heard Dad cry out, and in a dim light I saw him struggling to free himself from the four-armed creature. No, I screamed as I felt something warm wrap around my ankle. A fur-covered snake. Ah! Ah! God, I hate that. That's one of the worst things I've ever read. I screamed again and kicked wildly, sending it flying into the darkness, but before I could move away, another furry snake spun around my leg, tightening quickly. I bent and pulled at it as it hissed in protest. I tossed it aside. Run! Run! The voice of the loudspeaker boomed. 20 seconds to live. More monsters loomed in front of us, disgusting yellow lizard-like creatures with dark, flicking tongues like bullwhips, a hopping, furry ball that roared as it hopped, sharp teeth poking out of 3 mouths. Hissing snakes, enormous buzzing insects with glowing red eyes, more grunting pig monsters. Then a giant bear-like creature came at us on 2 legs. It tossed its dark round head back and laughed like a hyena as its paws punched the air. Help me! Help me! In Emperor's New Groove. Help me! Help me! That's what I'm thinking of. I heard Luke shriek, and then I saw him disappear, wrapped inside the beating wings of one of the giant birds. The bird cawed in triumph, and its wings tightened around my brother. 10 seconds, the voice boomed. No, I cried. I lunged toward the bird, grasped the beating wing, and pulled it open. Luke slid out, and we both began to run. Monsters growled and flapped and grunted and roared. Are we going to make it? Luke asked in a tiny voice. I didn't have a chance to answer. 2 powerful paws grabbed me around the waist, hoisted me high in the air, then slammed me to the floor. I landed hard on my stomach. My forehead hit the floor. Dizzy and hurt, I looked up in time to see an enormous elephant-like creature about to flatten me with its huge furry back foot. I'm not going to make it, I realized. I'm not going to make it. I need a second. I need a second before we continue. Fur-covered snake is not a phrase I ever want to hear again, right? Hairy long worm. I don't think I want to imagine some of these monsters to be mercifully, they're not too detailed. Furry snake is more detailed than I wanted, to be 100% honest with you. All right, we've got another 14 pages, maybe. 17 pages. We have another 17 pages. Okay. The enormous flat foot lowered over me slowly, steadily. The monster was taking its time. It all seemed to be happening in slow motion. I wanted to move. I wanted to roll out from under it. But the fall had taken my breath away. I lay there gasping, watching the monster foot come down to crush me. Oh, I couldn't catch my breath. I didn't squirm away. I could feel the heat of the monster foot. I could smell its putrid sweat. The foot pressed down on my stomach. I shut my eyes and waited for the pain. The jarring blast of a buzzer made my eyes shoot open. The buzz echoed through the vast room. The monster raised its heavy foot from my body. The floor shook under its weight as it began to lumber away. Am I alive, I wondered, or am I only dreaming? Is this just fantasy? Or am I only dreaming that I'm still alive? Or is that creature really leaving without crushing me? The buzzer echoed in my ear. Then it abruptly stopped. The loudspeaker crackled on. "Time's up," a woman's voice said. The voice of the Horrorland MC who had led us to this terrifying obstacle course. We now know whoever was here for any of the Nancy Drew streams. We know who appreciates that joke or not. Good night, Vanessa. The voice of Horrorland MC who led us to the terrifying obstacle course. "Time is up. What a thrilling race," she gushed. I groaned and started to pull myself up in the dim light. I saw that all of the monsters had vanished. "That was a tough battle," the MC continued over the loudspeaker. "Do we have any survivors?" "Yes, we do," the deep booming voice replied. "How many survivors do we have in there?" the woman asked. "3," the booming voice replied. 3 survivors out of 5. Oh, dear God. A cold chill ran down my body. I opened my mouth in a silent cry of shock and leapt to my feet. 3 out of 5? Did that mean that 2 of us were dead? My chest still ached, my knees were trembling. I squinted into the dim light, searching desperately for the others. Halfway across the room, I saw Luke and Clay. They were huddled together, walking in a daze toward the far wall. "Hey!" I tried to call them, but my voice came out choked whisper. Where were Mom and Dad? Were they both killed by the monster? 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. No! I finally found my voice and let out a horrified wail that echoed off the walls. "Excuse me, a slight mistake," the deep voice boomed. "Make that 5 out of 5 survivors." Jesus Christ, you guys. 5 out of 5, the Horrorland MC exclaimed. "A new record. We've never had a perfect score before. Let's give them a round of applause, everyone." I took a deep breath and held it, trying to stop my trembling. "They're okay," I thought happily. "Mom and Dad are okay." And then I saw them. They had their arms around Luke and Clay and were making their way toward me. "We're okay," I cried, rushing to them, my arms outstretched. "We're okay." All 5 of us huddled to the center of the dark room, hugging each other and sobbing. My dad's arm was bleeding from a deep gash. One of the monsters had clawed him. Aside from that, we were shaken but not hurt. "Now what?" Luke asked in a trembling voice. "Are they going to let us go?" "They can't get away with this," Dad said angrily. "They can't do this to people and get away with it. I don't care if it is TV." "Those monsters were real," I exclaimed with a shudder. "It wasn't a fake. They were really trying to kill us." "How do we get out?" Luke demanded. "Will they let us out?" We all started chattering at once, our voices high and frightened. Suddenly, the ceiling lights flashed on, flooding the room with bright light. As the MC's voice broke through our frightened conversation, "Let's bring our winners out with a round of applause," she announced cheerfully. "Ooh. 3 survivors. Emotional damage." Did anybody ever see the TikTok thing where they auto-tune the emotional damage soundbite? So it's like, emotional damage, emotional damage. So weird. My brain. It lives in my head rent-free, though. Wait. Suddenly the ceiling lights flashed on, flooding the room with bright light, and the MC's voice broke through our frightened conversation. "Let's bring our winners out with a round of applause," she announced cheerfully. We all cried out as the floor began to tilt beneath us. I grabbed on to Dad and we started to slide. The floor tilted down like a sliding board and we slid out of the room and landed in the plaza outside. Still feeling dazed, I jumped quickly to my feet as the Horrorland MC hurried to greet us. The big crowd of horrors behind her were clapping and cheering. "You can't do this to us," I screeched. I was so angry I didn't know what I was doing. I just totally freaked. I leapt at the woman, grabbed the top of her mask, and started to pull it off with both hands. "You can't do this! You can't!" I shrieked. "Let me see your face! Let me see who you really are!" Using all of my strength, I gave the mask a hard tug. Then I screamed as I let go and realized the truth. She wasn't wearing a mask. It'd be so metal if she actually ripped her face off. I don't care if it is TV. This dad, I swear to God. I'm telling you, Natty said they were painfully white, and I think that's pretty accurate. That's a pretty accurate way to describe this family. No common sense. Shyamalan is quaking. Alright, she wasn't wearing a mask. The monstrous green face, we've got like 10 pages left, was her face. Was her face. She wasn't wearing a monster costume. None of the horrors were wearing costumes, I realized. I stepped back, raising my hands in horror as if trying to shield myself. You're really monsters," I stammered. They nodded back at me. Pleased grins on their ugly faces. Their yellow eyes bobbed gleefully. You're all monsters," I screamed. "Don't call them ugly or they're definitely not going to let you out." But you said this was a TV show," I stammered to the horror MC. Her bulging yellow eyes gazed at me. "We're happy to say it's the top-rated show on the Monster Channel," she said cheerily, "thanks to great contestants like you and your family. The Monster Channel is watched by nearly 2 million monsters all over the world." But, I stammered, taking another step back. "People don't always take us seriously," she continued. "People come to Horrorland and think it's all a big joke. People laugh at the signs around the park, they laugh at the rides and the attractions, but it's all very serious to us. All of it." My father stepped up beside me, shaking his fist angrily. "But you can't do this to innocent people," he shouted. "You can't bring people into this park to torture them, and, oh, I'm sorry, our time is up for this week," the MC interrupted, shaking her enormous green head. "I'm sad to say it's time to say goodbye to our special guests for this week." Side note, in the episode of the show, the MC is a dude, and I wonder why they made that completely unnecessary change of the monster's gender. Again, dude is gender neutral. A man. A male-presenting monster. They changed. I don't know why they changed it. Wait. That's like if we just said the human channel. TLC? I have to imagine there's more than just one channel on Monster Cable, but I don't know what they would be. I know the very white Suburbans when I see them. You're right, Natty. Because sexism. What a weird way for sexism to prevail. Be like, nah, we can't have a woman MC monster. Women are pure and can't be evil. I'm sure there are definitely evil women. This is an equal opportunity evil zone. Alright. "Oh, I'm sorry. Our time is up for this week," the MC interrupted, shaking her enormous green head. "I'm sad to say it's time to say goodbye to our special guest for this week." "Now wait!" Dad shouted, raising both hands for quiet. The crowd of horrors silently pushed forward. We had no choice but to start moving with them. "Let me show you people the way to say goodbye on the Horrorland hidden camera show," the MC said. Dad tried to hold back, to resist, but several horrors bumped against him. They were bumping all of us now, pushing us toward what appeared to be a round purple pond just beyond the plaza. We couldn't fight back. There were too many of them. We couldn't run. They had us surrounded. They drove us like sheepdogs herding cattle. In a few seconds, we were standing on the edge of the purple pond. A foul smell rose up from the pond. The purple liquid bubbled and gurgled, making a sick, sucking sound. "Let us go," Luke cried shrilly. "We want to go home." The Horrorland MC ignored his frantic pleas and stepped to the edge of the gurgling pond. "Saying goodbye is always sad," she said, "so we try to have a little fun with our farewells." "Just let us go," Luke insisted. Dad put a hand on his shoulder to try to comfort him. We all stared at the MC as she raised a large rock in one hand and held it over the disgusting bubbling pond. "Watch," she instructed us with a smile. She let the rock drop into the pond. As soon as it touched the thick surface, it was pulled down with a loud sucking sound. "See how easy it is to say goodbye?" the horror said, turning to us. "Now will you jump in, or do you want to be pushed?" That's not the end yet. Equal Opportunity Evil Zone is a great band name. It really is. Silently, the horrors began moving in on us, closer, closer. Backing up, Clay tripped over my foot and nearly fell into the gurgling purple pit. I grabbed him and held onto him until he regained his balance. All 5 of us were standing on the edge of the pit. The sour odor swept over me. I felt sick. A thick purple slime lapped up at my ankles as if reaching out to grab me. "Mom! Dad!" I cried. I didn't know what I expected them to do. We were all helpless. I knew we weren't going to escape this time. Without realizing it, we were all holding hands. "Will you jump in, or do you want to be pushed?" the MC repeated her question. "I'm real sorry," Dad murmured to us, ignoring her. "I'm real sorry I brought you here. I didn't know." His voice broke. He lowered his eyes. "Dad, it's not your fault," I told him, squeezing his hand. And I squeezed his... This is so sad. And as I squeezed his hand, I had an idea. A wild idea. A stupid idea, really. A really crazy idea. I knew I had to try it. It was the only idea I had. "People laugh at everything in the park," the Horrorland MC had told us, "but it's all very serious to us," she said. "All very serious. Very serious." She stood right in front of me now, waiting for us to jump to our deaths, eager for us to get sucked down into the purple slime. I knew this was my last chance. I knew it was crazy, but I knew I had to try it. I stepped up to the MC, reached out, and pinched her arm as hard as I could. I mean, it kind of is your fault, Dad, but your apology is accepted. Thanks, Dad. One of the horrors. If I'm going down, one of them is going with me, preferably the MC. Yes. Let's see. Okay. God, we're almost there. It's midnight. We've got like a handful of pages left. I think 7 more pages left. Her mouth opened wide and she let out a startled gasp. She tried to pull her arm away, but I held on and pinched harder. "The mad pincher strikes again," I shouted, remembering Luke's annoying cry. Her yellow eyes rolled around crazily. "No!" she pleaded. Harder, harder, and then I was the one to cry out as her mouth opened wide and a loud whoosh, a rushing of air, escaped her lips. I leapt back. As the air rushed from her mouth, she appeared to deflate, just like a balloon. I gaped in amazement as she folded hopelessly to the ground. An angry cry rose up from the crowd of horrors. "Inflate her!" One of them yelled. "Inflate her immediately!" I'm sorry. It just reminds me of "moisturize me!" They began moving in on us, growling and grumbling menacingly. "Pinch them!" I shouted to my family. "Pinch them! The no pinching signs that we thought were so stupid, they were serious. The horrors deflate if they're pinched." A horror stepped up, arms outstretched to push me into a pond. I pinched her arm hard, and a few seconds later, he deflated. A horror stepped up, arms outstretched to push me into the pond. I pinched his arm hard. A few seconds later, he deflated. I heard the whoosh of the air escaping to my right and saw that Luke had deflated one, too. Whoosh! Another one deflated and folded the pavement. That's all it took. The plaza filled with frightened cries and gasps of horror. The alarmed horrors turned and ran. Stampeded is a better word. They scattered through the park, screaming as they ran. Taking a long, deep breath, I happily watched them flee. "See, I always come through in a pinch," I said, amazing myself by making a joke. It's a bad joke, but you know what? Our lives are at stake, so, you know. This is wild. Survival by pinching. It's a drug trip. I don't know what R.L. Stine was on when he wrote this particular one, but it was the good shit. Or maybe the bad shit. I don't really know. But it was some shit. I don't think anyone else in my family heard me. They were shouting for joy, hugging each other, jumping up and down. "Let's get out of here," I shouted. I started running toward the front gate. The others followed close behind. The gate was open now. I guess the horrors had opened it, figuring the only place we were headed was to the bottom of the purple pond. Without looking back, we ran to the empty parking lot and stopped. "No car," I murmured. In all the excitement, I had forgotten that our car had been blown up. What a sentence. I let out a weary sigh and felt as if I were deflating, just like the horrors. "Now what?" I asked, staring across the enormous flat parking lot. "It's too far to walk," Luke wailed. "How do we get out of here?" The buses," Mom cried, pointing. I turned my eye to the row of purple and green buses parked on the side of the lot. They glowed under the bright afternoon sun. I would not trust the buses provided by the park. "Yeah," Dad cried excitedly. "Maybe we can start one up and get away from here." We started jogging over the pavement to the buses. "Cross your fingers," Dad called, leading the way. "Maybe they leave the keys in them. It's our only chance." "Hurry," Luke shouted suddenly. "They're coming." My heart leapt in my chest. I turned back towards the gate. Sure enough, the horrors were pouring out of the park, chasing after us. "Give up! You cannot escape!" one of them screamed. "No one ever escapes," another horror shouted. "Hurry," Luke cried. "Hurry, they're going to catch us." No sleep till Brooklyn, Jet riding Optimus Prime. Come up with an ending. Maybe he wrote himself into a corner and how his characters could get out of this, so he was just like, screw it, pinch them, yes. He was like on a deadline and he had completely written himself into a corner and he was like, fuck it. Were there any horrors in the movies? I don't know, because I haven't seen the movies, and they wouldn't tell us what was chasing us when I was working on the movies, because I guess they were that worried about spoilers or something. There was a no pinching sign at the start. I wonder if we'll see any in the new show. Alright, we're not done yet. We've got one more chapter, 3 more pages. With the horrors close behind shouting and threatening us, we ran full speed towards the row of buses. My heart was pounding almost as loud as my sneakers against the pavement. My throat ached and I had a sharp pain in my side, but I kept running. "You cannot escape! Stop now! Give up!" The angry cries of the horrors sounded even closer. The horrors just sound like having, like, intrusive thoughts, I guess. I guess if you imagine your intrusive thoughts being like pinchable, deflatable monsters, it might help you. The angry cries of the horrors sounded even closer, but I didn't turn back to see if they were catching up. The door to the first bus was open. Dad got there first and scrambled up the steps and inside. Mom stepped in, followed by the 2 boys. The engine coughed, then started up with a roar. As I pulled myself inside, the bus door slid shut behind me. "Dad, the keys!" I choked out. "Yes, they're here," he cried happily. "Hold on, we're getting away." He lowered his foot on the gas pedal and bus shot forward. I stumbled down the aisle and fell into a seat behind Luke and Clay. "Hooray! They're coming! They're coming!" Hurry! They're coming! They're coming! Luke and Clay were screaming in unison. I could hear the angry shouts of the horrors through the closed bus windows. "We're okay," Dad cried, leaning over the big steering wheel. "We're okay. We're out of here." "Yes," I shouted happily. "Yes." We all started to cheer. We kept cheering until we were out of the parking lot and back on the highway. We laughed and celebrated all the way home. The drive took hours and hours, but we didn't care. We were safe. We had escaped. It was night when Dad pulled the bus up to our driveway. "Home sweet home," I cried joyfully. We all piled eagerly out of the bus. I took a deep breath and stretched. The air smelled so sweet and fresh. A full moon made the front lawn shine. Then I saw him. It was a horror, and he was clinging to the back of our bus. "Oh no," I cried out. "What are you doing there?" Dad demanded. "Did you ride back there the whole way home?" Luke asked in disbelief. I shrank back as the horror let go of the bus and slid to the ground. His yellow eyes studied us menacingly. He moved toward us quickly. Clay and Luke hid behind Dad. Mom's mouth dropped open in flight. Fright. What do you want? I cried. He reached out his green hand. Here, he said. We forgot to give you your free passes for next year. Honest to God, that is the end of the book. The insurmountable waist-high fence. Lizzie and the rest of the Morris family escaped from Horrorland alive, but she'll face even more horror when she goes back. Yup. TBH, intrusive thoughts are horrors. Yup. When she goes back. Oh, God. Oh. I'm so tired. There is Return to Horrorland. Yeah, it's... Where is it? It's somewhere. Return to Horrorland. Isn't it in the original run? Or am I just making that up? But Return to Horrorland definitely exists. I know, I own it. The horror of PTSD. Horror movie sequels be like, yes. That horror would have received a swift kick in the crotch. Yup. Yes, and in the next book, we will be facing bees. The next Goosebumps book is called Why I'm Afraid of Bees. So, you know. Because plot reasons? Oh, yeah. Well, and then there's the whole Horrorland series. Horrorland becomes a mainstay for Goosebumps as a franchise. Bees are cool, though. Respect the bees. Not the bees! Nick Cage stays up awake at night, terrified of that book and the bees. Bees, my God. Look at the cover. Why? Afraid of bees, and I'm a bee. Plays in my head. Bees are kind of cute, not gonna lie. Who's excited for October? I'm very excited for October. I've already been getting into the spooky season spirit. But yeah, that was One Day at Horrorland, book 16 in the original series, and I believe our 18th Goosebumps book that we've read on the channel, so there's a whole playlist of them if you'd like to catch the other ones that we've read. If you happen to be finding us now, I'm very excited for October. Oh, yeah. But yeah, it is just after midnight, so, ooh, and my voice is going, so I'll probably leave you guys here behind, because I wanted to hear the ending, but man, the horrors could have come into third film and been a third movie villain. Oh, yeah. But thank you guys for being here. I really appreciate you. I will see you next time. And don't forget, we have, well, technically, now it's Tuesday, but Monday, we've posted a brand new episode of Pop Culture Curiosities. So be sure to check that out if you feel so inclined. Have a good night, everybody. Good night. I will see you next time. Thanks for hanging out.